Welcome to the Queen City Music Podcast, the podcast devoted to the local music scene in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, here's your host, Matthew Ablan.
Hello and welcome to episode 61 of the Queen City Music Podcast. This episode of the Queen City Music Podcast is sponsored by Middle Sea Jazz, Charlotte's premier jazz club located at 300 South Brevard Street in Uptown Charlotte. Stop in for Thursday night jazz jams, gospel Sundays every third Sunday of the month, or bi-weekly Wednesdays for Remember Wednesdays. But if you prefer, stay in for the evening and watch their Saturday night live stream, where you'll have access to the best performances Middle Sea Jazz has to offer. And if you want the VIP treatment, get a Baby Grand membership, where life takes you to a higher note. Tickets are now available for Billy Cobham on October 7th, Ali Silk on October 9th. Noel and Maria present Keith Davis's Jazz Cabaret on October 14th and 15th. Then Xavier Gordon and Maria Howell on October 16th. On October 27th, Grace Kelly. And October 29th are the Special Effects All-Stars. And if you're in need of instruments or supplies, head over to Midwood Guitar Studio, Charlotte, North Carolina's own boutique guitar shop located in Plaza Midwood. Midwood Guitar Studio not only has the finest selection in boutique guitars, but familiar names like Fender, Martin, Taylor, Two Rock, and many others. Whether it's a guitar, bass, amp, effects pedal, or a much-needed accessory, the knowledgeable and friendly staff at Midwood Guitar Studio will help guide you in the right direction for your next purchase. And for all your guitar repair needs, Midwood Guitar Studio now has a luthier on staff. Visit their website at midwoodguitarstudio.com. And please welcome our newest sponsor, Bandzoogle, built by musicians for musicians. Bandzoogle is an all-in-one platform that makes it easy to build a stunning website and EPK for your music. All the features you need for a professional website are already built in, which include dozens of fully customizable templates, tools to sell your music and merch commission-free, mailing list tools to grow your fan list and send newsletters, commission-free crowdfunding and fan subscription features, integrations for Bandcamp, SoundCloud, YouTube, Bands in Town, and more, so you can easily add content from your other online profiles. And there's live support from the musician-friendly team 7 days a week. Plans start at just $8.29 a month, which includes hosting and your own free custom domain name. Queen City Music Podcast listeners can go to bandzoogle.com and try it for free for 30 days and use the promo code QCMP to get 15% off the first year of any subscription. That's bandzoogle.com, promo code QCMP. This month on episode 61 of the QCMP, I'm speaking with Pete Lents from Brookstone Bards, an entertainment company for all your musical needs. You may remember Pete from episode 36 of the QCMP when he came on and talked about the tribute band Abacab, the music of Genesis, which he performs with. But today, Pete is spilling the facts on his Twitch stream, his original music with Art and Pete, the Yacht Rock Spectacular, Thurston Howell, and so much more. Pete Lents, welcome to the Queen City Music Podcast.
How you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
Dude, it's good to have you back because the first time you were on with Cliff from the music of Abacab.
Yeah, that's right.
Or the music of Genesis.
Abacab, the music of Genesis. Yes, that's right.
Thank you.
That was my introduction to your show, actually.
Oh,
That was the very first time I'd ever heard of the podcast, and then after that, I started listening to it.
Oh, man,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was because of that.
Well, I didn't have you on today to talk about Abacab.
No, all different stuff today.
Yeah,
all
man, we're talking about Brookstone Bards and all the stuff that you do because
correct.
You're not just doing the Abacab thing. You've got this whole array of stuff that you do.
I do have an array. I do have an array. Yeah. So as you mentioned, I own a company called Brookstone Bards Entertainment, and it started as a traveling dueling piano show.
Gotcha.
Where I have piano shells and the PA system and all of those, I have all the accoutrements to bring dueling pianos to you. And I have, and request slips and pencils and all. And we basically, the whole idea was to bring the feel of a dueling piano club into virtually any venue. And, what started as a dueling piano outfit, I kind of, because of the advent of COVID, I actually kind of laterally moved it into online streaming.
Yeah.
And now my brand is synonymous with this idiot on Twitch that does, that goes online and takes requests and acts stupid and makes videos. And
so hold on. Let me back up a little bit. Brookstone Bards. The name. I understand the bards and the singing stuff is kind of like Renaissance.
Right. Oh, I wore my D&D shirt today because I knew we were going to talk about Brookstone Bards.
Oh, don't worry. We're going to geek out later.
Oh, hell yeah.
So what's the Brookstone part of it?
Brookstone is the name of the neighborhood I live in.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, this is Brookstone Village.
Yeah.
Okay. Brookstone Bards. It's alliterative. I looked it up online. Nobody's got that domain name. Right on.
There you
I think
go.
that, the litmus test for any venture's name is when you go and look up the domain name and no one else has it. Then you're good.
So, all right. So let's back up a second more. So we got Brookstone Bards. You started as a dueling piano. Mm-hmm. Then you decided during COVID, you were going to move it on to Twitch. So I've got a few questions. One, why Twitch is a platform as opposed to some of the streamers I watch for geeky kind of stuff? They do live streams on YouTube. Why did you choose Twitch? Sorry, I'm trying to get that out. Why did you choose Twitch?
Well, the simple answer is it's the most simple. It's the easier platform to monetize.
Okay.
With YouTube, the way YouTube's monetization works is you have to reach a set amount of views.
Yeah.
And you have to make sure that the content in your stream isn't copywritten in any way.
Okay.
You have to, there's just the levels for monetization of your channel are much more stringent.
Okay.
On YouTube versus on Twitch, your monetization is basically based on effort. It's based on hours. It's based on hours streamed, not hours watched.
Okay.
So there's several platforms in, several milestones in Twitch's monetization.
Yeah.
When you start out, obviously they're not going to pay you anything. Nobody can subscribe to you. They can't use the in-app currency bits. That's like, basically you use real money to buy this fake currency. And then when you put it in, when you throw it at someone in their channel, it makes their channel do stuff and, it's interactive. But you can't do any of those things at first. It's a tiered structure, and your first tier is what they call affiliate. Mm-hmm. When you first start, you're nothing. But then they give you like steps to affiliate. You have to stream, 12 days in a month. You have to log so many hours and have have your average viewer count per stream be 5 or over. And so once you stream enough to meet all three of those goals, they send you a little email and say, welcome to the affiliate program.
Okay.
Now people can subscribe to your channel. They can use bits. You can use channel points. They give a bunch more things that you can do to your stream to incentivize people to interact with you. And next up is partner. And then you've got tier level, things that you need to do to get to that tier.
Right.
And then, ambassadors on top of that. And then I think at that point, Twitch just kind of owns you and you work for them after that.
So I'm kind of illiterate, or ignorant when it comes to Twitch. Mm-hmm. So is it an app like YouTube that you download?
Yes.
That you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's an app on mobile devices, but on a PC or a Mac, you would just get on your browser and you would go to, twitch.tv.
Okay.
And so it is very much like YouTube in its presentation. Okay. When you open up YouTube on a desktop, you'll see the, thumbnails of here's what's recommended for you. And, of course, YouTube is recommended, the videos on YouTube are recommended to you based on what you've watched in the past. It finds your, whatever you've watched on your account and then recommends you stuff that's like the stuff that you watched.
Okay.
Twitch works basically the same way. When you start out, it just recommends you a bunch of videos that or streams that people are watching right now. And you'll go, oh, this looks neat. Here is a guy playing guitar, and here's a dude playing a video game, and there's a chick with an ice rack and a hot tub. Like, so here's all these different streams that you can go on and watch. Right. And when you click on one, you're automatically feeding into Twitch's algorithm. Now it's starting to know what you want to watch. Okay. And there are different subdivisions in Twitch. And you'll see that on their homepage too. You'll see, do you want to watch Twitch music? Do you want to watch Twitch gaming? Do you want to watch here? If you want to watch Twitch gaming, here's a bunch of different games that people are playing right now. So if you're into the gaming community and you want to see people playing Call of Duty, for instance, there's a tab for Call of Duty. When you click it, it's everybody who's put Call of Duty in their tags. Okay. And now you can see all the different streamers that are playing Call of Duty. So then you start watching them and you're like, oh, well, I like this person. I like how this person interacts with their chat. Cause that's another reason why Twitch is so fun, because Twitch is very interactive in terms of one-on-one feedback with the people who are talking to you. Like, as you're streaming, right on the side of your stream, you can see everyone saying things to you. Right. So let them say stuff to you and then respond immediately. And you get one-for-one feedback, because you can literally have a conversation with someone in chat. Now, you have to kind of moderate that, because maybe that conversation you're having with that one person isn't very interesting to the other 30 people watching your stream. So you kind of have to make sure that your content is not basic, but that it's widely palatable, so that everybody who's watching your thing can benefit, can enjoy it. Because ultimately, think of Twitch as the biggest strip mall with all of the bars in it. Right. And each bar has a different performer in it. And you, as the consumer, can literally go in and out of any of the bars in that strip mall. And you hang out the longest in the one you like the most. So if you're doing a stream and you've got 30 people watching you and you can maintain that for an hour, that's 30 people all over the world that are enjoying what you're doing.
And that is basically what Twitch is. It's just for live streaming.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
All right. Now, when you're doing the live stream, what's the setup like? Do you have somebody with you controlling a board for you? What's the video setup? Because that's the one thing. I mean, I've never gone into the video thing doing the Queen City Music podcast. I've just kept it audio only. It's easy. You hit the record button, you're good. Yeah, as long as you got record on. As long as you got record on. As I look back, nobody can see that. Right. But the video seems a little more involved to get that going for a live stream.
Yeah. So on the one hand, yes, you absolutely can just take your phone and point it at something and click go live.
Yes.
You absolutely can do that.
I've done that with, Facebook Lives or Instagram Lives.
And Twitch works the same way. Twitch has onboarding for going live right within the app. Right. You can totally do that. Right. However, the most interesting streams to watch are ones that integrate a little more technology. And for that, you need a platform like Streamlabs or OBS, which are, they're basically broadcasting software.
I know about OBS.
OBS that's my favorite. It's the one that's the most open source. It's, of all of them, it is the most user friendly. We feel anyway. And it's, you can set it up to where, all of your video, you can have multiple cameras and everything. As long as you got ports on your PC, you can put all these multiple cameras into OBS. You can assign each one of those cameras a scene. You can get what's called a stream deck. A company called Elgato makes them. You get a stream deck, and then you can assign those scenes to that stream deck. So now, instead of using the mouse to scroll on your wheel or whatever, now you've got it in a little box and you can assign it. I want this button. I want this. I want this, So to stream, to just plain go live takes very little. To go live well takes a surprising amount of stuff.
Yeah.
I was a little shocked at how much money we spent on, getting our stuff up and running. Now, my wife had already owned a nice camera. And it had, the camera that she had, obviously it had HDMI outs, so we could hook up and
like a video camera or like a streaming camera?
Like taking pictures.
Oh, okay. All right. Shit.
But those taking pictures, they have they'll do video as well.
Okay.
You know, you can run video with like the Canon EOS Rebel.
Gotcha.
Is one that I think we used, at the very beginning. But she already had a tripod because she was into taking pictures. So we set the tripod up and put the EOS on it and ran it HDMI into the computer. And then we put OBS on the computer and then said, find this camera. And there we were. Okay. There I was. And I was like, okay, so now that's going in there. Right. Now we need good audio. I need to be able to run my keyboard into the computer. I need to be able to run my microphone into the computer. So, okay, well, I have this little Alesis 2-channel, iOS interface. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just use that. I'll plug my piano into this one and mic in here. Now we're good. I can do it. So the sound goes into OBS. Now I've got video. And when we click record, OBS will also record what you're doing. So you'll get the live stream going out, but you'll also get a recording of what you're doing at the same time, which is nice if you want to go back and make content after the fact. That was a happy accident we discovered early on. I was like, oh shit, OBS records too. Yay! Like this is great. We can make content for days.
Yeah.
And so that kind of was the beginning of me streaming on Twitch.
Okay.
Back then, I used to have my wife helped me sometimes and then my neighbors would help me. They'd come in and they'd go to my stream because I'd be going live. They'd go to my stream with their phone so they could watch chat. And then people would type in what song they wanted me to do into chat. We had dry erase boards that people would be watching chat and they'd write on the dry erase board what they wanted me to play. So if I missed it while I was playing a song, they would keep up with me on the dry erase board and they'd hold it up.
Sweet.
Off camera. And I'd be like, oh, the next song is for so-and-so and it's this Billy Joel tune. Yay. And then I'd play it.
Yeah.
Now, once we got on down the line, we discovered that, there are actually tools for, maintaining a song list on Twitch. There's a website called Streamer Song List where it's basically a database, an interactive database. You as the user will go in and put the songs that you say, Don't Stop Believin', Journey. Then you can tag it, 80s, classic rock.
Right.
You make these tags for it and everything. And then when that goes in there, Streamer Song List at the top of the page will populate your tags.
Okay.
So when you want to search 80s, if you've tagged a bunch of your songs as 80s and you just click the 80s tab, well, then it only shows you the 80s songs. Or you can do the classic rock and it only shows you. So there's a little bit of moderation that you have to do with the database itself. But once it's up, now it is an online repository that you can turn into a link that goes into your chat.
Wow.
And you can put it in your chat yourself. And so when you put it in there, now it becomes a hyperlink that anyone can click on. They can click on the chat that's on the window. They can click on that link and they go to that website. When they select what song they want, there's another thing inside Streamer Song List called the queue. And that is what I look at when I'm streaming. I look at the queue. If you go on and you select, Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. Mm-hmm. If you select that goes into my queue at the position that you requested it. So maybe there was one song in front of you. It'll say Matthew Ablan has requested Don't Stop Believin' in position 2.
Right.
Or Don't Stop Me Now in position 2. And so I know I'm going to play this next song, the song that was before yours, and then I'm going to play Don't Stop Me Now. But now I don't have to watch chat to know what songs are next. Because now it's in this streamersonglist.com. And so once we put that in, that kind of changed the dynamic. Now I don't have to have anybody in the room with me with a whiteboard.
Nice.
So now I can kind of do that myself I've got a pair of iPads that sit in front of me. Cause usually I'm streaming, I'm sitting far away from the PC.
Yeah.
And so I've got a couple iPads up. One of them has the Streamer Song List is on there. There's there's a function called, or a website called Streamlabs, which, connects to your Twitch and shows you like who followed, who donated, if somebody rated you, and we'll get into what raids are in a minute.
Yeah.
But, it'll show you all of the up to the minute stuff that's happening in your show. So you can keep track of who's, what kind of activity is going on. I've got my chat up so I can read what's going on. I can see how many people are watching. I can see, how long I've been online. And then I've got, of course I've got one for like lyrics and charts. So I've actually got 2 different iPads that are split screened with 4 different processes. Right?
So is this, you're just going on And I get it. Is it actually as complicated as you describing all this for somebody who's just listening? Like, my gosh, my mind is swimming to get this going. Was it a big learning curve for you, or is it actually fairly as simple?
Well,
like, it's like, there's this, click, punch this, that.
Right.
I mean,
well, Initially, like I said, you could just point a phone and hit live and go live, right? And then you're using the phone's microphone. So it is really as easy as point and click. But once your stuff starts getting more complex and the needs of your stream start getting like, man, I wish I had a tracker on my screen for how many people have followed me.
Right.
Well, there's a widget for that. You just gotta go find it. I wish I had a way to track donations so I could set goals for each month. And I can make it say October's goal is $100.
Yeah.
And people love watching that little bar fill up. Like they really do. They like, so you give them a visual thing and then they'll do it. But there's a widget for that. But you gotta go find that.
Because it's video, and that's why we're there, because we want to watch.
You want to watch.
And I gotta give you stuff to look at. Which was kind of interesting to me watching one of your Twitch videos, which was on YouTube, by the way.
Yeah.
You sent me a link.
Well, there's a reason for that. I'll go into it in a little bit, but.
Your background becomes part of it. Like, you can tell people, I've seen some YouTube stuff that I watch, some regular YouTubers, and some of their stuff is really bland in the background. Like it's them with like in their room, and there's their door, and there's their, kitchen behind them or whatever, and they're streaming, they do their streams from there, or their videos from there. And then there are other YouTubers where they're in a room, obviously, but their backgrounds are more elaborate. And I'm looking at your background, and you've got all your geeky stuff in the back and all your stuff that you like, but it has a style to it while you're doing it. So it adds to the ambiance. The room that you are in is adding to the ambiance if you're playing, which is pretty cool. So did you put some thought into it, or did you just say, this is my room?
Well, so when we first started the stream, we started doing the stream in a room that I had kind of set up for music production anyway. Okay. And I put, of course, I put my nerdy stuff up on the wall just cause I like having nerdy stuff on the wall.
Yeah.
Well, when we pointed a camera at where my piano was, it was like, oh man, I didn't even realize there's this cool poster behind me. And I didn't realize there was a shelf with pop figures on it. Yeah. I can put a transformer on this one. So it didn't really click with me initially, the stuff that was behind me.
Right.
Well, then we switched rooms in January. So, we tore that room apart. That room became my son's room, and we took his old room, which is, 1.5 times bigger than the room we were in.
Gotcha.
So now we got a lot of space, and now it's a blank slate to set up how we want. So we envisioned where the cameras were going to be, and then what should be on the wall behind each station. Okay. A reason I say station, you asked me if there was somebody else in the room with me.
Yeah.
Initially, I had done it where I was playing the show and looking at the camera, and my friend Tim would be running the PC, and he would be doing the scene switching from the other side of the room.
Right.
So there would be somebody else in there. But for the longest time, he didn't have a microphone. He just would he'd point at me when we were going live, or he'd say, and we're clear. He'd be that guy, like in Wayne's World, and we're clear, that guy. Yeah, that's what he would do. He would be like, we would raid out, and then he would shut the stream down, and that's how I knew I could start saying whatever I wanted, because now it's not going live over there.
Gotcha.
We're not live anymore, kind of thing. And, so he would come and do that, and then my wife would help me with the whiteboard stuff. So, in answer to your question, yes, there were other people in the room. But later on, we started doing songs that had harmonies in them. And then I would hear my wife singing harmonies from the other side of the room. And I was like, damn, I wish we had a mic. And then Tim can sing too, and he would put it in there. And now I'd hear this 3-part harmony happen. I'm like, man, you need a mic. Man, but I can't put any more mics in this interface. Well, I guess we're just going to have to buy a bigger interface. So we bought a bigger interface, and we gave them microphones. Yeah. And then it was like, people on stream would go, who are those other people singing with you? And we were in COVID, so it was like, are they in the same room as you?
Right.
Well, yeah, one's my wife, who I sleep with, and the other one's my neighbor, who I see every day, and who works out of the home, so he doesn't go anywhere. He gets his groceries from Amazon. I knew he was safe, So we didn't have a problem having a gathering because none of us went anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, during this time, it was so totally okay for us to come together and be in the same room. So then we needed to get cameras.
Yeah.
Now he's a tech guy. It works in computers. So he had a bunch like this webcam or that way, but it became apparent after us using the webcam, it was like, well, yeah, you're on camera, but you look crappy and we can't focus it. And we can't stream in 1080p because this thing only does 480. So it's like, well, this thing kind of looks, well, let's get another camera. So we'd go on those widgets, what I was talking about, those little donation goals and stuff. And we'd put new cameras for the studio. And how much was it? Well, each one of the cameras was like $400. So we put $800 on the thing. That meter was filled in about a week and a half.
Oh man, that's great.
We had 2 cameras later, you know, because when people are watching it, if they're into your product, they want to see you do better. They want to see it look better. They want to see it sound better.
Yeah.
So if you put a goal on your screen, help us get 2 more cameras. Well, you have people that in the Twitch space that just like giving streamers money.
And then of course they want to see it. Mm-hmm. So you can't just be like, I'm just going to go put this and buy,
That's right.
I'm going to go to a nice dinner for the next week or go on vacation.
And they want
to know that you bought new cameras.
That's correct. Well, because it's instant feedback. They can see you did.
Yes.
They can go, oh wow, you look better.
Yes.
I can see your pores in your face now or whatever, you know, like, so they can tell that it looks better, but then they also get a lot of times, you know, depending on how much it was one single person gave, they get the recognition for having advanced the stream like that.
Right.
So that's how we collected all of the gear that we did during COVID. We weren't taking that money and like, this is what I'm going to use to live. We would take all that money and make the stream
back
better.
into the stream. Yeah.
Because the better the stream started looking, the more money we would make.
Yeah.
Because now it looks professional. It looks cool. It sounds good. You know, we invested in, Ableton, the Ableton software. Mm-hmm. So we could start doing actually pre-sound mixing before the thing. And now it eliminated the need for a board. Like I notice, over there, you've got that PreSonus.
Yeah.
I have that same board.
It's a great board.
I love it. It's my favorite, like, cause you can use it as an interface to run your computer, but then you can also use it live to run your live show.
Yeah.
I absolutely swear by that board.
Yeah.
That sat in my studio for a long time. That was the interface that we used. So I had multiple channels. Well, now we have a Scarlett 18i20 because we have Ableton. I don't need all the dials and everything on it. I just need a hub to plug everything into. And so now everything's plugged into that. The mixes are controlled by the computer. The Ableton controls the post mix going out.
Gotcha.
Then we needed better microphones. I was using SM58s, which are great for live performance, but not so awesome for streaming. Yeah. Cause you just get all this, you know, room reverb and bounce off. And if somebody's talking over in the corner, you can hear them, right?
Cause that's what we're using right now. So
I know, but you and I are the only 2 people in here and we're not playing instruments.
Yeah.
So it works. See, we can work.
What are you using for live, for streaming?
SM7Bs. We got the Shure SM7B, which is like the podcaster mic, right?
Yeah.
But it's what's fascinating about that microphone is that its sound field for picking up sound is like a bubble that comes off the front of it. If you walk like 4 feet away from that microphone, it will not pick you up.
Right.
But if you are right here, like right in front of it, you'll hear every single nuance that your voice makes. They are so clear.
See, I've even heard people using those or seen people using them for vocal recording and that kind of stuff. I'm like, so they're versatile. It's not just like, cause they're not cheap mics. I mean, you're just spending a chunk of money on those.
Yes. Well, we discovered you're not only spending a chunk of money on those, but you need to buy the cloud lifter. you know exactly what I'm talking about. I investigated
it, man.
You gotta have the cloud lifter's another $100.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so one microphone investment, one SM7B is a $600 investment off the top. Cause that's a $500 microphone with a $100 cloud lifter. Well, now you have to buy at least 2 XLR cables and one of them has to be tiny. Right?
Oh my gosh.
So then it was like, you know, as we put this thing together, it's like, well, I really want that microphone, but buying that microphone actually means you have to buy 4 other things to make that microphone work. And so that was another goal. We were like, we're going to upgrade our microphones. We like the SM7B and we need 3 of them. And here's how much this is going to cost. And we put that donation goal on there. And a month later, we had 3 SM7Bs because people wanted to see us sound better.
Yeah.
And we had gotten fans come to the show because now we were all on camera. Suddenly there was this new dynamic in the show.
Yeah.
And all three of us are on there. So now we're building scenes and we're all three in different parts of the room.
Right.
But all three of the cameras, Tim was, building scenes in OBS that had all three of us on the same screen.
Right. I've seen one of those.
You know, and so he was building these scenes in OBS because you can actually, OBS is very versatile in terms of what things you can have on the screen at once and what transitions come out when you hit different buttons to switch to different scenes. And so, so he was on board with all of that.
Right.
And he was, as I was building my repertoire, you know, cause people would ask me to play stuff that I didn't know. I just put it on the list and learn it. So as I was building my repertoire of music, he was watching YouTube videos, figuring out how to use OBS. So he'd come in and was like, hey, I did something to the stream today. Hey, I did something to the stream today. Hey, I did something to the stream today. And it's like every day we had this new pane or this new scene or this new thing, and it was me on the stream. So every time someone came to the show was constantly evolving and getting
awesome.
New and better. And then when we switched over, and now we're back to where we switched rooms, and you were talking about the stuff behind, you know, and so now we got to be in a room that was a blank slate. So now we knew where the cameras were going to sit. So we knew what to put in the view of each thing. Right. I knew where Tim was going to sit, so I know what to put behind him. I know where Kristen sits now, so I know what to put behind her. And I know where I sit and what kind of camera I'm using, so I know what to put behind me. Sweet. We got a wide angle lens for the camera that I'm using now. Yeah. So now you can see a lot more of my background. So now you can see all the pictures that are on the wall and the toys that I've got on that shelf. And what's wild is because we can now stream in 1080p, people can look at the thumbnail and go, I know what that thing is. I'm going to click on that guy's thing and say, I love your Transformer. I love the fact that you've got a Penguins, you know, Pittsburgh Penguins sign behind you. I love that Transformer thing. Where did you get it? Oh my God. What's Sploob mean? Cause I got a big sign that says Sploob behind. Yeah. So there's all this stuff that is all strategic conversation starters. So now when we see the thumbnail for my stream, you don't have to know what I'm doing. There's probably something in that thumbnail that's going to catch your eye and make you want to click it. Right. And so we designed, you know, all that stuff is by design. So now, you know. So from COVID, when you first started it to now, how long did it take you to get to the evolution? Took about a year and a half. And it really took us about 6 months of not knowing what the hell we were doing. Yeah. You know, just pointing a camera and doing what I would do in a show. Yeah. Like, that's all I brought to the stream was, well, this is the gig that I would be doing if COVID hadn't happened. I'd be out at a bar playing music for people. Gotcha. Playing requests. Sure. So how can I play requests online? And then when we figured out Twitch and, you can monetize that really quick. Like, man, people like, you know, I didn't initially want to do it. Tim and Kristen were both like, dude, you need to do this. You have an ability when you play live to make the people in the audience happy. You can get them to stay and drink booze, which, let's be honest, that's what your job is. That's what your job is. Exactly. Exactly. The sad reality of musicians, kids, is we also sell liquor. Yes. But so that's what you do at the bar. Why can't you do that on Twitch? You just do the same thing. Right. And then you got people all over the world that'll just sit there and watch you play songs you were going to go play anyway. Yeah. I'm like, I guess you're right. You know, I did not initially want to do it. And so when I sat down, I was just bringing the same vibe that I bring to the places that I play out in the world, and people responded to it. And how often are you streaming from Twitch? 3 days a week. I streamed Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And what's your average stream time? About between 3 and 4 hours. Wow. So that's almost just like it's a gig. Yeah. It's a gig. Yeah, but again, the best thing about it is when it's in my house. Yeah. I wear in-ear monitors, so I control how loud it sounds for me. I don't have to sing terribly loud to get my point across. If I want to be louder on the stream, I don't sing louder. I just turn myself up in Ableton. And the fact that when I'm done with the show, I have an instant recording of the show that I just did. So if I want to edit out a highlight and put that on Instagram after the show, I can do that. That was my next question. I was like, when you say the video, do you do any editing afterwards? Oh, yes. Yes, I do a ton of editing actually now. I'll put up, I think last year they, well, it wasn't last year. It was a couple years ago. The Music Modernization Act.
Yes.
That I think was 2018 that got signed, I think.
Yeah, it was actually it might even be earlier than that, 2018.
Yeah. So that was, I was very excited about that.
Yeah.
About that bill being signed because it kind of, what we were sold was that was going to be, that artists were going to get treated fairly in the pay process.
Right.
What the Musical Modernization Act actually did was make it easier for record companies to go after content creators. And so the way that worked was now you have these algorithmic detectors in place on sites like Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, that will detect when you as a content creator are playing some sort of copywritten music, be it in the background or maybe you're playing Hotel California live at a gig.
Right.
Well, now these algorithms can detect it and they'll demonetize you. If that platform has not played ball with ASCAP and BMI, then the algorithm goes, I don't like this, shuts it down. So a lot of times we'll turn the sound off on your video and then demonetize your channel. The DMCA strikes, that you've heard about. So, and depending on how many of those strikes that you get, that platform, whatever platform you're on, can literally take your channel away. No matter how much money and time or anything that you've invested into it, you can actually get your entire channel taken down. And
is it when they take it down, is it almost like a Twitter thing, like you're suspended for 30 days? Or are they just like, oh, no, you're gone?
Oh, no.
Forever.
If you get a strike enough for them to take your channel down, your channel gets taken down indefinitely.
Wow.
Yeah. When you get strikes, you'll get those suspensions. But if you get enough strikes, the platform will they'll see you as you're a risk. You're a risk to that platform.
Right.
So they'll just demonetize you and send you on your way. And now you can't stream on Twitch anymore, ever.
Which always makes me laugh because, I don't know if you ever watch him, Rick Beato. He's on,
I love him.
He's on YouTube.
I love him. He is out there fighting the good fight for small timers like us.
He's interesting because he always makes the point. He's like, here I am. All I'm doing, and you're demonetizing me. I'm talking about your album or your song or whatever it is, and you're demonetizing me, and I am promoting you.
Right.
Because classic rock, which is basically what he deals with more than anything else, classic rock, here I am trying to give you guys a platform and let everybody know how good this music is that might be looking for this kind of stuff. Otherwise, it might fade into obscurity if you don't have people out there avidly promoting it. I'm just another avenue. But yet you're going to demonetize me for like a 2-second bit that I played off of a Pink Floyd song or a Led Zeppelin song.
Because the prevailing wisdom here's the thing, and this is what a lot of people don't understand what gets them so mad. They think it's that band coming after them.
Yeah.
90% of the time, the band has no idea that's even going on.
Record company.
It's a record company. Eagles stuff. Now, we can point to this and say that Don Henley's a bad guy, and certainly I'm not a Henley fan.
Yeah.
Love the Eagles, love that music, but people like Don Henley as a person, man.
Never meet you hero.
Yeah, right. We have a thing, and we say it every time on the stream. We go, "Damn you, Henley!" It'll come up on the screen, and it's a picture of the drummer from Abacab at an Eagles show, shaking his fist at the Eagles down on the thing. We actually put it on our show, and whenever we play the Eagles, we trigger that GIF, and it comes to come up on the screen. But I know Don Henley, notwithstanding, their manager, Irving Azoff, makes sure to go after anyone who's doing any sort of Eagles stuff. I posted, and this has been a couple years now. I do on my show. I'll do once a month. I'll cover a record, on the piano and just cover an entire album. I covered Desperado, which is one of my favorite records. I mean, I grew up listening to that. It's just an absolutely wonderful concept record. And so I learned every song on it, and I'm like, I'm going to cover this. And that's where the editing comes in, because I actually did it as a show. And before each song, I would introduce it, talk about what it was about, when it was written, who's playing on it. Like, I kind of made it an educational show as well. And then I played the song. But then when I posted it on YouTube, I want it to be something that somebody can just hit play on and let it run. So I edited it down to just the songs. So I had to go through the whole show and pick out each individual song, run them together and so forth. That video has been blocked in 60 countries.
Wow.
But not here. It's not blocked in the United States, but I have fans in the Netherlands that can't watch that video. I have fans in Belgium.
Why is it
that can't
blocked
watch that video
overseas, but not in the States?
I literally don't know.
Wow.
That's the thing.
So that must be those countries blocking it then. Those individual countries rather than the United States.
Well, what it is it's probably not that country. It's probably Azoff and his minions, because the people who are getting it blocked are probably countries who are not paying their ASCAP and BMI dues. So it's all the record companies, man. If you can ever point to some sort of malfeasance in the music industry, it is almost always the record companies.
Yeah, that's one thing I remember reading about. So when classic rock and that whole era of 80s music and 90s music started changeover, and they started going to compact discs, right? The record companies were charging so much for these CDs because they were making money off the back catalog. So they weren't thinking about what was happening currently, like going into the internet and music, because they were concerned about back sales.
Yeah.
And then they got bitten by the bug.
They want to get rich off an album that came out 20 years ago.
And that's what they were
reprinting it on disc right now.
Exactly. And they were making so much money from album sales. And then you change the carrier.
The format.
The format. You went to tape, and then they made money off those same albums going to tape, and then they made the same money going on to CD, and then they tried the mini CD, of course, and then it went to internet, and then they just lost that whole thing.
Every time a catalog changed formats, when it moved to a different delivery system, the record companies could cash in immediately on those things, because once you like an Aerosmith record, you were always going to like that Aerosmith record.
Yep.
If you had it on album and then you bought a tape deck, you're going to buy that on tape. If you got a CD player, you're going to buy it on CD, because you're buying these new platforms to try to upgrade your sound system or whatever.
Yeah.
But now I have this CD. I don't want to listen to Aerosmith on tape anymore. I have to go buy that CD now.
Yeah.
So then by the end of it, you own 4 different copies of Get a Grip on 4 different formats.
Yeah.
Because you like that one record, you've bought it 4 times. The record company has collected that money 4 times from you.
Yeah. But I mean, that was the point though, is they were cashing in on those old music.
Yep. And now what you have happening is, with the advent of streaming, you have this
how do we cash in on the old stuff?
Exactly. How do we cash in the old stuff when you have an explosion of content that is basically shareware? Right? Yep. Because you have these giant libraries of songs and these apps that are just putting out content. Like, if you go to Spotify right now, you can find almost anything you want.
Yeah.
Now, there are some artists and some record companies that will not deal with Spotify because they don't like how Spotify pays out to the artists and record companies. Personally, I don't either. It's just that Spotify is the best repository of music right now. I hate it, but I want this music.
Which is amazing to me that somebody hasn't put out something like a Spotify or the artists. I think they tried to band together a while ago and come up with their own thing. It never caught on for whatever reason.
Tidal is one that's I can't remember. I don't remember if that's Dr. Dre or Kanye. I can't remember whose thing that is. But Tidal is one that does pay significantly more to artists.
Yeah.
But there's just less stuff. Yeah. I want to, as a consumer
I
of
want the
music,
most.
I want the one that has the most. Right now, the one that has the most is Spotify.
Yeah.
Now, Apple Music's getting there. Apple Music does have quite a bit of stuff that Spotify doesn't have, but that's because the artists themselves have been able to go to Apple and be like, you want me on your thing? This is what I want.
Right.
You know, you want people to, like Taylor Swift. It's like, you want people to come to Apple because I'm here and I'm not on Spotify. So if that's the deal we're going to make, pay me more because I'm Taylor Swift, you know? And so you have this, you now have this battle with these mega artists that are pulling their stuff off different platforms because of this or that or whatever. Spotify recently did the thing where they bought Joe Rogan's podcast and spent a whole bunch of money so that Spotify would be where Joe Rogan's podcast was. And then you had a bunch of artists that were like, I think Joe Rogan's a piece of crap, so I'm not going to have my Neil Young like lost his mind, pulled his entire catalog. I'm like, did Neil Young just take his ball and go home? Yeah. I mean, I don't particularly like Joe Rogan either. I don't really watch his stuff either, but that doesn't mean I don't want my music on Spotify's platform. I want to make sure my music gets into your hands. And if that means my music has to share the same pool as somebody I don't like, well, whatever. That guy's not ruining my life.
Welcome to America. Everybody's got an opinion.
Right. Of course everybody's got an opinion.
You know, but unfortunately.
But that's why you have a podcast, so we get to put out ours.
Yeah. You could do whatever you want. I mean, it's just the way it is, you know, and unfortunately with the music business, I mean, my podcast is on Spotify. Mm-hmm. I don't see any money from that.
Yeah. And you won't unless you click the cash out button. And then if you do, you're going to get 0.001 cent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Spotify pays absolutely terrible to their artists. Yeah. But they ensure that you literally go worldwide when you put your stuff up there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can't, you know, back in the day, that used to be the dream. You know, it was like, I'm going to make an album and I want people in Barbados to hear it, you know, or whatever. Like I want people all over the world to hear my music. How am I going to get that done? Well, now if you pay an aggregate, you can get that on Spotify. I could record fart noises and get that on Spotify right now. You know what I mean?
But it's
dumb, but I could.
But that is the beauty, and it's a double-edged sword. So first off, and you've heard the argument before. One, the technology is amazing for artists because everyone has a platform to get out there.
Right.
You know, no matter what you do, whether you're doing your fart noises or whether you are, you know, a symphony orchestra, you have the ability to get your product out there.
We have the same chance to put our stuff up.
Exactly. But the problem is that now the field is full of people.
Yep.
And there are no curators like the record companies putting out stuff to say, oh, this is the artist you've got to put in. And they don't cultivate artists anymore. The artist has to cultivate themselves.
That's correct.
And it just makes it, you're shouting into you're shouting
into the void.
I mean, you're just a shot. And how do you cut through? Mm-hmm. So whether it's a podcast or anything else, that's why I've chosen for my musical career per se, is to learn to be a big fish in a small pond. Mm-hmm. I would rather be the guy local in Charlotte.
Right.
And people know what I do and put out in my local community than try to be like, I'm going for world domination.
Right.
The Queen City Music Podcast and my music, you know, my original music will go out to the world. No, man. Like if I could do my little thing locally, people know who I am and I can get a local artist on and promote them and the stuff that they do. I'm happy.
Right.
You know,
because but then the upside of that is that people in Charlotte are now informed about the musicians and the creators in their community.
And I widen my audience because if somebody listens to Brookstone Bards, they're like, oh, Pete's on Queen City Music Podcast. What is he talking about? I want to hear what he has to say. Oh, crap. Let me go back and listen to other episodes. I like the way this guy's format is.
Right.
So.
Right. Oh, that's like I said, like you were talking about, you know, us being on for Abacab.
Yeah.
I started listening to your podcast after that and I was like, damn, he's really, really good at making sure his format's the same. It's very free form. You obviously have questions, prepared for people, but you also make sure that, you know, their voice gets heard. That you're not just canning what you want them to say and making sure that that's what gets said. No, you know, like when I listened to the one about Jim Brock, you'd have never gotten those stories out of him if you hadn't just let him talk.
Yeah.
You know, Todd Johnson, you would have never heard his stories if you hadn't just let him talk. But I know Todd Johnson, like he and I, you know, we're all talkers.
Yeah, yeah.
So like, you let us go, we'll just go.
Well, that's a good thing because I mean, as I've said before to people, when you run a podcast, you're going to have different kinds of people coming in, and some people you have to prod more. You have to know when to stop. You have to listen. I mean, you brought up Joe Rogan before. You listen to him, he's kind of masterful with stuff, with just being able to talk and communicate to people. And the more you do podcasting, you realize if you are an interviewer, that's kind of what you do. You're kind of giving somebody the opportunity to speak. Mm-hmm. So you have to know when to shut up, and you also have to know when to kind of cut things off if somebody's running off, right? You know, and
we got to steer the ship back.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of what you do as the host. So, but it's a lot of fun, but I digress, you know, going on and stuff. Anyway, so Brookstone Bards, you're on Twitch. Mm-hmm. You've got the show. So, and it's just primarily for you. It's a vehicle for you to go out and do your solo stuff as a singer-songwriter, pianist, mm-hmm. and perform other stuff. Are you doing any of your own material on it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So for several years now, I've been making music with a guy named Art Mays, who, he and I kind of came up together back in Muncie, Indiana, back when we were both sucking at college. And, as one does, you know. So, I mean, he and I got together, back then, and we're writing, you know, being very pretentious and writing, you know, writing some grandiose pieces with lots to say and lots to say musically. And, you know, we grew apart as people do. And then, much later in life, he and I reconnected on Facebook. Okay. And, there was an old song that he and I had written that we only ever played live once. Really long song with like 3 movements. We were very into that whole prog. Yeah. You know, and, he was like, man, we should get together and record that. And I was like, you're in luck, 'cause I remember the entire thing. I had all the sheet music still from that we sketched out on pads back in the day. And I was like, I remember the entire thing, man. We could go do that, you know? So we planned a trip. I went up. We were supposed to record just that song. We ended up recording 3 more. And we made an EP. Huh. And as he and I kept doing it, and then the Twitch show happened, he asked me while we were working, I'm like, he goes, are you going to play any of our stuff on the show? I'm like, yeah, it's our original. It's my original stuff. It's your original stuff. It's our original stuff. I should totally be using my platform to prop up my original thing I'm doing with you. So, so I started playing stuff that the stuff that we recorded on the show, and it started getting requested. Like, I put it in the song list. People are asking for our original stuff. And to the point where, a lot of people on Twitch have been covering some of the songs that we've put out. Like other artists.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, it's so wild, dude. It's so wild to like, cause some Twitch streamers will, when you go to raid them, which mm-hmm. is raiding is when you take your entire audience and dump them on another streamer because you're done. Yeah. You're ending your stream, but you don't want those people to stop having a good time. So you decide to raid this other streamer. And then when you do that and you hit the button, everybody that's watching you is immediately now watching them. Yeah. So to them, 40 people just walked in the door. Okay. Right. And so, and what we'll do on our show is we'll like hype that person up so that when we get over there, really like, start spamming emotes in their channel and let's, start giving them money and throw bits at them or subs. Let's get a hype train going. And hype train is like it's a thing inside Twitch where if you throw a bunch of money at a stream, if several different sources of people throw a bunch of money at a streamer all at once, it kicks off this hype train where now if you throw bits and subs, the hype train goes up. When the hype train level gets all the way up to 5, you get specialized emotes, like the emojis on your phone, right. Specialized emotes delivered to everybody who was in chat at the time the hype train went off. So you actually can collect specialized emotes that you can use anywhere that you only got if you were part of a hype train. So it's kind of, again, it's these little tiny, serotonin releasing things that Twitch does for you to keep you engaged and make you want to mess with it. Hype train is another one of those things. But so you hype that person up to your audience and you say, we're going to go over there. We're going to start a hype train. I want you to start spamming our emotes in their channel. Tell them, give them a follow, give them a like, blah, 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 all those things. So then when you send to other people, all of a sudden this person might be in the middle of a really nice song and all of a sudden they'll look at their stream and they'll see that, Brookstone Bards is raiding with 50 people and like, what's up, Raiders? Blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden it shuts down what they're doing. Yeah. Because you just kicked the door in with 50 people, right? So,
If you're raiding, are you doing it to another music stream, or are you just like, maybe like video game stream? Hey, guess what? Video gamers are now getting,
I could do that.
Yeah.
I totally could do that, but I like to keep my raids to music streamers, because if somebody has been in my stream watching me for 4 hours, they're into the music.
Right.
I'm not going to then turn you over and dump you over onto a 14-year-old that's playing Fortnite.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that to you. I'm going to put you to another music streamer. Now, the reason raids are cool is because, and I promise I'm getting somewhere with this. The reason raids are cool is because they can develop relationships with another streamer.
Yes.
Now they will see that you rated them. They'll go, oh, who's Brookstone Bards? And they'll go look you up during the stream.
And they'll be like, audience.
They'll be like, oh, you're a rock and roll piano player. Oh, I'm going to need to follow you. Boom. I just got one follow from the person I just rated. And then they'll say, y'all need to go follow Brookstone Bards. Pay him back for that raid. Boom, 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 boom. I just got 4 more follows because that streamer said my name to their community. And they like that person, so they want to do what that person told them, and now they're following me. And now they're going to be in my show the next time I go live. Next time I go live, I'm going to have a bigger audience. It's all this weird numbers game.
That's crazy.
But where I was going with the cover, with the music, the cover music, them covering your stuff, is a lot of times they'll, that person might say, do you guys do original music? And I'll be like, yeah. And they'll go, do you have anything on Spotify? And I'll go, yes. Right. And you give them a link, and they'll play your stuff on their show. There's one streamer, and we've since made friends with her. So like, in October when we go to TwitchCon, we're probably gonna hook up with this person.
That's great.
TwitchCon's nuts. We'll get into that in a minute. Yeah. But, her name's Jo Plays Violin. She's a wonderful streamer, just a beautiful human, plays violin and piano over stuff. Like she'll play a track and then play violin over the top of it. She's a really good violin player. But she said, for your raid, you get a song. And if you've got original music, send me the track and I'll play over it. I sent her, one of our songs, The Man I Used to Be, which is one of the ones that they love on our show. I sent her that, and she was like, she's sitting there playing it, and she's like, this song's beautiful. And then she'd like miss the chord. She'd go, ooh, I love what you did there. And she's just playing violin while she's doing, and I'm like, I love what you're doing, but what you're actually doing is playing my music for your fans. That's dope. That's dope. And then they'll be like, well, now I want to do that. And another streamer will be like, I really like that song. I want to cover that song. Is that okay? And then they will go play their version of that for their fans, and it'll appear on their song list. Yeah. So then if you go over and visit, they'll play that song for you. And so it really becomes this like community of streamers that now the audiences of those streamers are now cross-pollinating, because they liked this person. They might like you. And now they're at my show after that show's over. Right. Or they come to see me the next time when that person's not streaming, or vice versa, or what, So it becomes this giant network, and that's how you get all these people on Twitch to know who you are. Huh. And that's why I can safely say I've got fans in Belgium. I've got fans in Netherlands, I've got fans all over the world, and that's not hyperbole, because I can click on the name and tell where they're from.
Well, since you brought it up, The Man I Used to Be, can we play that song?
Absolutely. Do it up.
Let's take a listen to it. This is The Man I Used to Be by Pete Lents. Is this an Art and Pete song?
This is by Art and Pete. That's correct. Yeah.
All right.
Our original music is always under the Art and Pete moniker.
Okay. This is The Man I Used to Be by Art and Pete.
Particular, I just forget the little things. It seems these days my thoughts are made of glass. Sometimes they shatter, and the pieces make me think of questions that I never thought I'd ask. I wanna put my faith in the man I think I see, but my reflection lies. Who am I now? I can't tell what's missing. Is there someone listening? But I can't your face. You've got my eyes, and that seems a little strange. An album of memories that I don't have anymore. There I am, in places I can't say I've been before.
Pete, man, I really enjoy that track. It's got that Elton John / Billy Joel vibe to it. And it's kind of, knowing a bit about you, that's kind of right in your wheelhouse.
Oh yeah. It's right along where, what kind of music I like, right? It's the kind of music that I grew up listening to.
Right.
And loving, Elton John's Madman Across the Water or Billy Joel's The Stranger, or these quintessential albums that I grew up listening to. It's informed the way I write musically. And, for instance, that song I'd written the whole chorus progression well before it ever became that song. It was a completely
just
different
the
song.
chord progression, or the vocal,
the chord progression.
the words as well, or no?
No. The words came much later. The words came out of the session I was talking about earlier, where I went and hung out with Art, and we were supposed to record that long song, and then we recorded 3 more. That was one of the ones. That was one of the ones that came out of that session, because I'd been trying to figure out a way to talk about my grandfather's death, and he had passed from Alzheimer's, and Alzheimer's, it's just a terrible disease.
Oh, absolutely.
There are many diseases, obviously by their very nature, most diseases are terrible, but this idea that you can just randomly lose your mind is terrifying.
Yes.
That is more terrifying than cancer, because at least cancer, you can get screened, you can see it coming, you can fight it. Some people come back from it. You don't come back from Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
That starts happening. You're done. You're on a timeline now.
Yeah.
And your timeline is only as long as however long you remember to breathe, because that's what eventually takes you.
People
with
forget
Alzheimer's.
to stop eating too.
Exactly. They forget to clean themselves. They forget to groom themselves. They forget to get up and go to the bathroom. They forget to eat.
Yeah.
Then they forget to breathe.
And I think like cancer, I think it's become so predominant in our society right now. I'm not really sure you can talk to someone who hasn't been touched by it.
No, I don't think you can
It's
anymore.
the same way with cancer. But
I don't think you can anymore.
But I'm sorry. So fill us in on the song.
Yeah. So I had been trying for a long time to figure out a way to properly convey how I felt about my grandfather's death. And, again, my grandfather and he and I were not super close, but I felt like the circumstances of his death were just extraordinarily painful, because I kind of put myself in his shoes. Like, what would that have been like? Would you even know it was happening to you?
Right.
Would you realize what you forgot? Would you know even after it was gone?
Yeah.
And so it just, the idea of that happening to you was not fascinating in a cool way,
right.
but it gave me pause.
Yeah.
And so, I had shared that story with Art one of the times in that week we were hanging out, and he was like, we could write about that. So I sat down and told him like everything that I was thinking about the song. And it was his idea to, what if we told this story from the point of view of the person who's going through it? And that's where the title, The Man I Used to Be, came from, because it's how long can you hold on to the life that you used to have before you start forgetting it all.
Right.
And that's why there's a line in the song about, when they stare at the photo album and they see people, that they see a child that seems to have their eyes, and that seems weird. Well, you should know that's your granddaughter, but they don't remember that anymore.
Right.
It just looks an awful lot like me, and I can't figure out why.
Yes.
Or the album of memories that they don't have. I don't remember being in this place. I don't remember being on that trip,
Yeah.
but it's my photo album. That's very clearly me. That's the person I see in the mirror, but I don't remember this happening. And to having a whole photo album of those moments.
Right.
And the idea that your brain can shatter in just pieces of glass, and each glass being a memory, and just, he and I sat there and we got so deep into metaphor And most of the metaphors that we talked about made it into the song. And when we got done and we got done and wrote it and I performed the whole thing the first time, it was like, I think this is the song, man. We just nailed it. We just nailed it.
So when you were writing with Art, what is the process? So you said you already wrote the chord progression. Mm-hmm. Is there one person who's the main lyricist, or are you both writing the lyrics, or are you working? How's that?
Art is the primary lyricist.
Okay.
He has a gift for prose.
Okay.
He's just very, very good at it. He, coming up, in his, not just necessarily college years, but even growing into, even on into adulthood and stuff, he has just studied verse. He studied, he studied verse and prose, but then he's also a kind of a student of psychology and how people think, and he kind of brings all of that together into this knowing what to say and knowing how to say it and knowing how to use a turn of phrase. He's just really, really good at it. And then it's very, very easy then for me to go, well, I got chord progressions for days. I just, just like Billy Joel and Elton John. Elton John especially would just sit around writing music, and Bernie Taupin would go, hey, sing these lyrics over that.
So your working relationship with Art, is he primarily the lyricist and you're the music, almost like that Elton John, Bernie Taupin thing?
Yes, but that actually crosses as well.
Okay.
Cause Art will hear me, a lot of times he'll hear me do a progression and he'll go, oh wait, go up right there. Go up right there, cause I have this idea for this vocal line. If we can do a different chord right there. Or I'll hear him sing something. I'm like, I'm going to have to sing this, and I don't want to phrase it that way. Mm-hmm. Let's phrase this another way. So put another word in there. Oh, well, this word doesn't go with this word. So let's change that. So we go through these periods of really fine tuning.
So is he a lyricist singer, or does he play an instrument as well?
He is a singer, and he can play guitar, and he can play a little violin too. But when it comes to actually recording our stuff, a lot of the way we record it, since he lives in Chicago and I live here in North Carolina, well, I'm the one that knows all the musicians and I have all the hardware.
Yeah.
So when we do it, I just sing it all.
Okay.
And so when we're putting it out, I'm the primary lyricist. But on that first EP that we did, Art sings half of that, and then I sing the other half.
And where did you guys wind up recording that again?
Which one? The EP?
Yes.
Was recorded at Thunderclap Studios in Hammond, Indiana.
Wow.
So it was up closer to where he lives.
Okay.
I went to him, and we set in his apartment, he lives in Chicago. And then Hammond, Indiana is maybe 30 minutes outside of Chicago. So we drove down there, and we'd stay there for a couple days and laid down the foundation of what, the piano, drums and vocals and Hammond. Then I brought it home with me and put all my friends on it. I grabbed a bass player and a guitar player, and so I put a bunch of musicians on it after the fact, and then we mixed it here in Charlotte.
Ah, okay. So when you're going to Art to record the EP, did you bring in like working songs, the ideas that you had already recorded, or did you just have things in your head that you were going? So did you make sample recordings for him? Like, this is kind of what I've got going on.
No. The way that worked was, the whole idea was to go up there and record the one song that he and I had written a long time ago. Okay. So in essence, to answer your question, yes, but we didn't have it recorded, but that was all written down because we had written it so long ago. And I remembered all of it because I fell in love with that song. It's the song called Weather Patterns. It's the last song on the EP. I remembered how it went because I remember sitting in our the house that I was living in 25 years prior, writing it, and so that music was already written. Okay. It was already sketched out. All the parts were done. The lyrics were all done.
Yeah.
And when we recorded it, it was part and parcel exactly how we did it all those years prior. Okay. But as we were sitting there getting it together, Art was like, why don't let's test our metal. Let's write some songs while we're here. So the other 3 songs on the EP were written during that week.
Okay.
They weren't things that I had brought. With Man I Used to Be, I had culled that progression from another song that I was trying to write a decade prior, like many years prior. But I didn't really go anywhere with it. I really liked the progression, but my lyrics, I suck at writing lyrics, really. Mm-hmm. Like, I can write chord progressions for days and wraparounds and how to get from this key to that key. And like, I'm a theory guy, so I love that kind of stuff. But I'm not really a very good lyricist, if I'm being honest about my own abilities. And so having somebody like Art, who is a really good lyricist, and just the way we bounce ideas off of one another is truly remarkable to make music with him, because what he does takes what I already thought I was going to do in new directions.
Right.
So I did have kind of a preconceived notion, and now I've broken it because the song isn't that anymore. Now it's going somewhere else.
I'm always fascinated by it, the process, because, I've found that I've talked about this on prior podcasts, but when you're writing with someone else, for me, I found it start to become a difficult process. You know, you're trying to come up with something, somebody else is trying to come up with something, and then you feel like, you know, you're giving, of course, the way people say it is, I'm giving birth to this song, but you know, you still want control of it.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, no, this is kind of the where I want to steer this. And even in bands, sometimes I hear about, you know, the songwriters, there's somebody who takes the dominant role in the songwriting thing. And there always has to be that one leader, you know, who's guiding the ship, as it were.
Right.
You know, but when you're writing with just a co-writer, it truly is, I think, sometimes a, mutual understanding and respect.
It has to be. It has to be. And Art and I went through, you know, to get to where we are now. We went through a period of, you know, let's use my idea. No, let's use my idea. Yeah. That's a very succinct way to put, you know, what is actually a much more nuanced conversation. Yes. But we went through a very a large period of feeling each other out, and how can we work together in this same space?
Yeah.
How can we respect each other's strengths while still wanting to get our individual points across? And what we realize is that our individual points are not what's important.
Yeah.
It's, are we crafting a product that someone wants to hear?
Yeah.
Are we crafting a product that both of us are proud of at the same time? And a lot of it is, you know, it is knowing when to compromise and knowing when to put your foot down, and knowing, you know, that is this idea that I'm real passionate about. Is it good for the construction that we're making, or do I just want it in there because I'm a control freak and I want it?
Yeah.
I never think of any of the songs that we do as mine. And I had to have a conversation with Art about that. Like, these songs are not yours. They're not mine. They are ours. We created them together. So ultimately we have to be happy with what we put out.
Yeah.
And, you know, Art had that kill your babies kind of idea, where this is my little thing and I made it, but because I made it and I'm sharing it with you, it's now no longer this thing. It is now something else.
Yeah.
And if it changes, you know, we feel like every change to a work is for the better. We change this thing, about this song because it now works better in this context because we're going somewhere else with it. And that, you know, we've just kind of held on to that writing process. So now he and I writing together is a much more fluid, organic experience. Yeah. Because now we're not bringing preconceived notions to the table. He'll bring a piece of something. He writes song fragments now. He spent a lot of COVID, like, sketching out a verse, chorus, and a bridge of this idea he has, and a verse, chorus, and the bridge of this. But he purposely leaves it open-ended to give me a chance to interpret, like, take what he did, interpret it through my lens, and spit it back out as a proto song. And then, do we like what has now been done? You know, so it's kind of writer and arranger. You know, the Bernie Taupin and Elton John has been kind of, an explainer for how Art and I work. Yeah. But it's actually much more than that, because Art will also write music, you know, and sometimes I will inject, let's sing this lyric differently. Let's make this lyric another thing. So it's not just, you know, he sits around all day writing poetry and then I take his book of poetry and make songs to all of it. Right. that is a very, very simplified.
Right.
Again, a simplified answer for a more nuanced, for a more nuanced concept. But so we've gotten to the point now where I know how he's going to come at things. He knows how I'm going to come at it. So we just don't argue about shit.
Sure.
We just don't argue about it. We just do it.
Well, if you get that out of the way and there's a mutual understanding and respect for it. But I think from the way you described it, when it first starts, it's not that way.
No, yeah.
You have to get there.
First. Yeah, you have to get there. And especially when you're writing with someone else consistently, you have to get there.
Yeah.
Because it's not just going to come right out of the gate and be all wine and roses. Yeah. It's not going to be that way.
And it's tough because you as a songwriter, you have to realize that you are giving up control, and I think not even just as a songwriter, that's a lot of things. Just for people, that's hard for a lot of people to let control go and let somebody else make some decisions for
yes,
you in
it really
situations.
It really is. I hate doing it as much as I hate doing it to him.
Yeah.
And vice versa. But sometimes we have just immutable ideas. Yeah. Like this must make it into this song because this is so neat and it's part of this thing. Yeah. And, Art's brought me some ideas where it's like, he'll do this one idea over and over. And I'll say, well, I think it's cooler if we only do that idea once, because if we do it once and we do it in the bridge, then it's special the one time, as opposed to you having to do it over and over. Does it have to be part of this chorus, or is it something we can save? Does the chorus have to go like that, or is that something we can do, later? Do we have to do 2 verses before we get to a bridge, or can we front load a bridge just to be weird? Do we need to be weird for the sake of being weird? Or are we servicing the song by being weird? So we now ask ourselves these types of questions all the time.
But then even there's that thing of like, well, let's just do it and see how it sounds, because what you have in your head for how it's going to sound, and then when it's actually recorded and put down and you listen back to how it sounds, is another thing. Because you might be in that moment, play it and be like, oh, it sounds great. And then you actually record it, just to hear how it's going to come out. And then all of a sudden it comes out and you're like, yeah, it doesn't really work. The next day you do it. It just depends.
Things sound vastly different when I play them as a piano demo than when I take the piano out of it and give it to a guitar player and a bass player. Like now it's a different song. Well, now it's got a different vibe. Well, now I'm going to sing it differently. So let's look at that. Let's view it through that lens now.
Yes.
And the amount of lenses that we pass a song through from concept to product is it's staggering, because we don't know what the players are going to do when they come in unless I tell them. Well, that's no fun. I don't want to tell the bass player exactly what to play unless I have constructed a specific piano bass counterpoint. Yeah. Well, now you have to do exactly what I said because I structured it like this for a reason. Yeah. Because this note has to hit as this note, when you get into that. But I tend to not do too much contrapuntal stuff. I try to, when I'm constructing music or when I'm arranging stuff, I kind of want each instrument to kind of sit in their own spot and do their own thing, as long as they're feeding back into the moment. When it's feeding back into the construction as a whole, I'm okay with that. I don't feel the need to tell players exactly what to do. Right. I kind of want them to listen to the demo and what style because I wouldn't, if I want you to play on my record, I'm not asking you because you're a guitar player. Right. I'm asking you because you're Matthew Ablan. Right. I want you to bring your signature thing to this song. So when I let you listen to the demo, I'm confident that you're going to take how you imprinted on this song, and that's what you're going to ultimately do in the studio. Yeah. Cause that's what, if I didn't want that, I wouldn't ask you. I'd ask Todd Johnson. Right. Or I would ask Jason Atkins because I want it to be an organ part. Right. I would have asked someone else. So when I go choose a player, I'm choosing a player based on what I think they can bring to the table, not how well I think they can replicate what I asked them to do.
If they're going to fit the song.
Yeah.
This is the vibe I need. I'm not going to go get some jazz player if I need, some Spanish part player.
I take very much a Donald Fagen, Walter Becker approach to let's get the guys that are right for this tune because this tune is supposed to sound like this.
And that's the way it should be.
I think so.
Unless you're just doing a solo acoustic thing or a solo piano thing.
Right.
You're like, this is the way I'm going to make it sound.
Right.
It's just me.
I don't need you guys. Just give me like 15 minutes to lay this thing down 3 times. We'll comp it later and I will just, then it'll be a song and I just did it by myself.
Exactly.
I think that's a waste of other people's time too.
Yeah.
If I've booked studio time and I want you all to be there, I'm not going to ask you guys to be there and then, hey, why don't you go wait in that other room while I record this other song?
Yeah.
I'll go in when it doesn't cost me as much and do it myself.
Oh my goodness. So can we listen to one more track? Mm-hmm. Okay. Reason?
Absolutely. Yes. So this song is, after the EP, after we did the EP, Art and I decided we wanted to make a full length album.
Oh, okay.
So we didn't want to take, which is kind of weird that we're doing Reason is the song we're going to listen to, but we didn't want to take previous stuff. We wanted to come out of the gate and together write something new.
Okay. And
so we did, but then he did have this one song called Reason. He was like, I really, really like this song and I really like the opportunity to reimagine it. Can we do it? And I went, let me hear it. And I'm like, yeah, we can do this. This song is great. So Reason, this song is actually, musically and lyrically almost completely written by Art prior to us working together. There were a few things arrangement wise that I changed, just to make it fit with Art and Pete rather than us regurgitating an Art Mays song. How can we make this Art and Pete? So there's some pieces at the end that I inserted a couple modulations just to make the ending different than what we had heard prior in the song, or there's like different ways that I'll sing certain things, but it is primarily an Art Mays song.
Yeah, but you singing it.
Yes.
So, which also puts your own stamp on it.
Mm-hmm. Cause I have
even
to
if it's his
ultimately
stuff,
interpret it.
Yeah. Which gives, again, it gives it its own vibe. Mm-hmm. Somebody else could have wrote it and they could have did the chord changes, but as soon as your voice goes on it, it changes the dimension.
Yeah, for sure.
Rather than somebody else, rather than him singing it,
right.
Him writing it, him coming up with all the music and then is one thing. And then you're like, oh, but then you put somebody else singing it. It's like, oh.
Right. And I may not choose the same nuances that he chose.
Exactly.
I will try to sing the vocal line that he put.
Yeah.
Da 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 da. I'll try to do that.
Yeah.
But I might put a different inflection or accent because I'll do it like how I'm feeling it, not necessarily how he did it. And just little changes like that will alter the DNA of the song.
Sure.
And so, when we sat down to do vocals at, Phil Hall's studio, he even, I would go through and sing the song and he'd sit back and listen. He'd go, do you think we can pull some more emotion out of this part? And I said, yeah, what are you thinking? So then I'd have this conversation with the producer.
Yeah.
Apart from Art, and we'd have a conversation about how I should, and then that would kind of inform this part and it would get sung a little differently. So the whole process by how the song got from where it was to where it is now, it's kind of fascinating, given that the entire song was written from the ground up before I even had a hand in it.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that we did together, which most of the rest of the album is. This song he had already had written, and then I took it and kind of played with the clay a little bit, and then showed it to my producer, and he played with the clay a little more, and then we spat it back out, and then we showed it to Art, and what do you think? And he's like, It took Art several listens because he was hearing it with his ears. He was hearing it with the way that he'd always known that song to have gone, and for it to now be a little different. It's always, he said that's why he's always like, I have to approach things objectively or I'm not going to like anything.
Yeah.
Because I have this idea of how it should be and you're not going to look at it like that. Talking about me.
Right.
You're not going to look at it like that.
What does the title of the album? Was it just Art and Pete?
The title of the album is Childish Things.
Okay.
The idea that, there's a song on the album called Childish Things that's all about, when you get older, that quote, as I got older, I put away childish things. I'm butchering it. I don't know what it is. But, the whole song is built around that concept. That you have to put childish things away. But by the end of the song, the idea is, no, you don't. You just have to manage it and manage those childish things to be part of who you are.
Yeah.
And they're not going away. I'm 46 years old and I love Star Wars. I don't care. I'll go in my closet and play with my TIE fighters. I don't care. I don't feel bad admitting it. I don't care. but that's a childish thing. I played with those TIE fighters when I was a kid,
Yeah.
and I will still go in and pick it up now because it's still dope.
Yeah.
You know, like it has now become part of who I am, and I don't let it identify me.
Yeah.
It's just another thing of,
It's just-
I've absorbed it into my
Yeah.
collective thinking. And so that's what the idea of the whole album is that we're writing these songs with these concepts that we are now absorbing and making part of a new whole. And that was kind of the impetus behind how these songs got written. We thought that's the main theme of the record. And then this song, obviously, going on the album, just made sense because it was like, it's now this different thing now.
Well, let's take a listen to it. This is Reason off the Art and Pete recording, Childish Things.
Yeah.
Maddening, whispering, this is the me you'll never understand. I had half a mind to kill you, the other half had the upper hand. And I'm just wondering, since you threw away all that we had, if everything has a reason, what is the reason for it? If everything has a reason, what is the reason for it? Telephone, 35 cents thrown away, calling your machine. No, I didn't leave a message. You would have erased it without listening. And I'm just wondering, since you threw away all that we had, well, if everything has a reason, what is the reason for it? If everything has a reason, what is the reason for
Pete, I really like this track. I know, maybe I'll be favorites, maybe, you say it was an art song before, but I do really like this track. I'm sorry if it's, not completely yours.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay.
But it's got this, almost Genesis type of vibe to it. It reminds me of one of my favorite off the Abacab album.
Right.
That kind of vibe.
Well, there was an instrument that I put in it, and we discussed briefly earlier, the polysynth.
Yeah.
That synthesizer noise that just kind of runs through the whole thing. I'm in love with that sound, but that sound really does kind of put a date on it. It does kind of identify with the 80s, with 80s prog or 80s synth pop. Which is, totally okay because synthwave is on top right now. So, I think we're all right.
But doesn't that make it interesting that if somebody ever hears the song, they might actually think it was something recorded, a few decades ago as opposed to currently?
That doesn't bother me. I don't have any designs on being fresh. I just want to make something good.
Well, because if you listen to certain styles, let's just say I'll pick on two different genres. If you listen to rock from the 80s, and you listen to drums, they're heavily reverbed.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of drums, heavily reverbed. And then if you listen to rap, the current trend in rap is, in this trap, you have that triplet, snare drum thing going on through the whole thing, which really kind of dates that genre. And you can listen to it and go, this is from that period. But, thinking of modern artists creating songs and working in that kind of genre and putting that style of drums in or that synth sound in. And maybe, 30 years from now, 40 years ago, somebody will go back and rap and put in that kind of trap little beat in there.
Right.
People will be like, oh, that sounds like this, and not knowing it's from a modern artist doing, their kind of version of it.
Right.
So it's kind of neat.
Yeah. I tend to look at, each song as its own little creation, its own little masterpiece. So I am not concerned with, I'm not concerned with making sure that all 10 of the songs on this album sound like they came from the same person.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned with making sure this one sounds like it's in the same genre or vein as that one or whatever.
Right.
If I want to jump from, punk rock to emo to 80s classic to piano rock to ballad, I want to feel free to do that without having somebody go, well, these songs don't sound like the same artist. We can't put them on the same record. Well, who says you can't do that? I think versatility is one of the funnest things about musicians when they go and they prove that they've got the versatility to do a lot of different things on the same record. That's why, just to bring up Genesis, I think the album Duke, it's why one of the reasons I think it's so spectacular, because there are 12 tracks on it. It starts with a prog rocker, it ends with a prog rocker, and then goes everywhere in between. There's a ballad on there, there's a pop song on there, there's a synthwave tune on there, there's hopeful songs, there's downer songs. It's just kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Stylistically. And it's one of their best records.
Yep.
And I really respect when artists do that, as opposed to artists like Three Doors Down, who will write an entire album of the same song.
But I don't think some of those artists that repeat things have that depth. And it's not to sound insulting. This is what we do. And this is, it's that almost that AC/DC syndrome.
Right.
AC/DC does this. If you want to hear a band do that, go listen to AC/DC or Three Doors Down, because they're great at that. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that I really loved about bands, my favorite band of all time is Led Zeppelin. And the one reason I loved Led Zeppelin is because they had this range to them. Say what anybody will about Led Zeppelin. You listen to the first album and then you listen to In Through the Outdoor, completely different band sound. They go from country to hard rock to folk to blues. They did all that and they brought their influences in. And I think that's what makes artists, is that they have this depth. Mm-hmm. And I think, musicians can do one thing, that AC/DC kind of thing, and they do it well. That's great. But real artists have a lot of more depth to what they're doing, and their influences, in a sense, can be worn on their sleeve and say, this is what I do. And this is how I breathe. Mm-hmm. It's my music, and I'll wear it on my sleeve. I think that's what makes artists interesting.
Yep. And that doesn't really change the fact that either both of those examples, AC/DC or Led Zeppelin, it doesn't really make either one of them good or bad.
Yeah.
Because I will sit down and listen to Thunderstruck and rock When the Levee Breaks right after it. I have no problem with that.
Yep.
To me, that's dope. I want to listen to some AC/DC. I want to get down. All the guitar sound the same every time. I don't care, because I love that guitar sound.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin does a little something different every time. When the Levee Breaks does not sound like Going to California.
Yeah.
But that's the same band, or doesn't sound like Kashmir. Kashmir is like its own little epic thing, or Song Remains the Same, or just, we could go on and on. Zeppelin has quite the well. In the few albums that they did release, their well still runs very, very deep. And so, I can appreciate a band that has, or an artist that has that type of depth, but then I can also appreciate a band that does that one thing and does it really well.
And that's one thing that is wonderful. We were talking about earlier about, modern technology and Spotify and all that kind of thing. That is one thing that is wonderful about it, is that artists can do what they want now. It makes it tougher for them to break through, but they can do what they want, as opposed to having a record company, which things have become so
homogenized.
Yeah. Like, you do this and you're going to keep you in this box because that's all you can do. And if somebody steps outside of the box, we're going to hit you with a stick. Get back in that box, because that's not who you are.
Right.
You can't do that. And, having that independence that we have as artists today is put out what you want, do it, because you will find your people. Mm-hmm. If they're going to listen to you, you will find it.
And I think that, it's kind of wild that when I'm, writing with art, I never, I didn't really have any delusions about, well, I'm going to be famous. This music's going to make me famous. No, and both of us we wanted to make music that we wanted to listen to.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we started doing Brookstone Bards on Twitch. Mm-hmm. And now that music has legitimately found an audience that it may or may not have had if we had just put it out on Spotify and forgot about it.
Yeah.
But now there's a place where people are actually asking for it.
Yeah.
Like people go on the Twitch show and they're asking me to do this music, and they wouldn't know anything about it if Art and I hadn't written it and then recorded it and put it on Spotify, and I have something to listen back to now I can learn a solo version of it and do it on my show. It's that integration, I think, is what's helping that music find an audience by springboarding off the popularity that my show is creating for us. So,
well, I think one of the things I've been talking about it with everyone, is social media, and your platform, in a sense anyway, is social media, the Twitch platform.
For sure.
And I normally say to people, well, what role does social media play for you? But for you, it's kind of obvious.
Almost
it's
exclusive.
Like, this is what I do.
Yeah.
This is how I express myself. This is my platform to show my music. And it's really a big part of what you do.
Yep. Yeah. With, obviously with our business model the way it is right now, everything starts with Twitch.
Yeah.
The show goes up on Twitch. We get people to watch it. We plug our other stuff during the show. So now they know there's a place to go. Then after that show is over, well, as I said before, OBS records the show as well as streams it.
Yeah.
So now I have a hard recording of it on my computer. Well, now from that hard recording, I can make any amount of content that I want. I can make a 30-second reel for Instagram. I can make a minute-long TikTok if I want. I'm not really a big TikTok user, but it is another avenue I can do. I can take the entire show and upload it to YouTube. I can edit the best song out of it and turn it into a YouTube single. I can really take the audio from that and release that on SoundCloud if I want. And I can make my own album of covers from the show. Yeah. Cause I did it on the show and now it exists and it has reverb on it. So it's already mixed nice because I mixed it nice to go out over the stream. I don't have to do anything to it after the fact. So it's automatically, so once we started thinking about all of these different pieces of content that we could create from me going live on Twitch one time, it started to make a lot of sense. Well, let's start doing Instagram reels. Yeah. Let's start doing a TikTok. Let's start doing small YouTube singles. Let's put this entire show up in a playlist on our YouTube page. Let's promote the Twitch show on the Instagram, and then that's honestly why I just went and got a link tree. Yeah. Like I had so many pieces of content and so many at Brookstone this and at that and the other, and it's so fun.
Linktree makes it so much better.
Right. I'm just going to pay for the Linktree because most of these social media platforms will only let you put one link in your bio.
Yep.
And Instagram won't let you put any links in a post at all, which sucks. But maybe that's the way they want to play
I don't
out.
like that. I don't like that at all.
I'm not a fan of that. I want to be able to embed a link in my post.
Yeah.
You see my post, I want you to be able to touch my post and go to what I'm talking about. I can't embed my song in an Instagram link
and you always have to say link in the bio.
Yeah.
So go to your bio, click the link tree, and
now they're clicking the link tree. So now they have a second page they have to scrub through.
Exactly.
But at least that's the last page they have to look at if they want to engage with me in some way.
And I guess the good thing is that if they go to your bio and they look at your link tree, they'll find out the other things that you do.
Right.
So that's one pro of that, which is cool.
I've tried to make sure I design my link tree to make it inviting to makes you want to touch it.
Yeah.
Makes you want to go press it, you know? And the Twitch shows on there, my Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Abacab, the music of Genesis. There's a link to that website. Thurston Howell, the yacht rock band. There's a link to that. There's a link to my merch store, where you can go on and get like a Brookstone Bards t-shirt or whatever. There's Brookstone Boards, my gaming channel. So I've established a secondary channel because I've got all that stuff sitting in my studio. I might as well, so when I'm not streaming music, I'm on my other channel, Brookstone Boards, playing board games and retro gaming and all this other stuff. So I maintain both channels, and honestly, I can get revenue from both channels too. So
there you go.
Twitch just pays me once and it's all the revenue from all of my from all my streams.
Look, man, if you're a working musician, you need multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
If you're not some huge star or Taylor Swift or somebody and everybody's going, selling millions of albums, for everyday working musicians to have multiple income streams is a great thing, because you can't just go out and perform. You can, but honestly, I would make the case that doing your streams, going out and doing the performances, that's even more fun, because you do all these things and you're not going to get burned out doing one thing completely. Right. It breaks up the monotony of the day. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I did 5 gigs this week. I packed up my gear and I went and performed and I did this and that's all. And it becomes Groundhog Day all over again.
Right. No, every music, that's one of the reasons I think I'm pretty lucky in how I've been able to structure my business, because, every time I play, I'm doing something different. Yeah. I'm on Twitch. I'm doing the Twitch thing. When I go do dueling pianos, I'm doing dueling pianos. When I go be Abacab, I'm singing and playing drums. When I do Twitch, the Thurston Howell, I'm dressing up and playing keys and singing smooth. I get to do a little bit of different thing every time. So I'm not just a one trick pony. I'm not this one thing. Yep. I get to be multiple things. Yep. And all of those things make me money. So that is also a happy accident that all of those things are actually lucrative as well. So,
and it is. I mean, it's one of those things that you have to do it by design, whether you fall into it, because of COVID that you were forced into the Twitch thing, or you design it like, I've got to do all this because if I only do this one thing, I might get burned out doing it. Mm-hmm. And that's always my fear. But, teaching my elementary school kids, I love doing that. I love gigging. I love teaching my guitar lessons, and I love doing all the other stuff that I'm involved with, and podcasting, blogging, all the things that I do. It just keeps it interesting as opposed to like, I only do this and that's it.
Right. But what's fascinating about things like that is that you're using your primary skill set for 6 or 7 different avenues of content. Yeah. You're still using your music to teach kids music. Yeah. You're still using your music when you're editing the audio. There's a little bit of musicality that goes along to editing a podcast, because you want the conversation to flow. In order to understand a flow, you have to get into, this sing-songy way of somebody talking, you got to pay attention to that, and when you're doing your own music and you're writing your own stuff, well, now there's that, but it still all comes from the same skill tree. Yeah. And, not to put the RPG element on it, but it all comes out of the same skill tree. For me, I know how to play piano and bass and drums, and I sing. I have a little bit of audio engineering. I have video engineering. Yeah. I clearly have a face for radio, obviously, but I can utilize that particular set of skills to do all these different pieces of content. And because I'm doing all these different pieces of content, I'm learning more about each thing along the way. The more I do Twitch, the more I learn about OBS, and the more I can affect change on my stream when Tim's not around. The more I do Abacab, the music of Genesis, the better I get at drums, which I don't get to play very often. Right. But I play it in that band. The more I do, Thurston Howell, I'm getting real good at my presentation of stuff, and snapping my finger and doing finger guns while we're playing piano or whatever,
Well, speaking of which, Thurston Howell, this is another thing that you do. It's another area that you are specializing in. Yes. Fill me in. What is Thurston Howell?
Oh, Thurston, I'm in love with it. I'm in love with it. Thurston Howell is a yacht, your premier yacht rock spectacular. It is if you're familiar with the genre of yacht rock, it is a specific type of music made between the late 70s and early 80s. It's about an 8-9 year window.
Yeah, but you guys bring it to a next level.
Oh, we try to. I mean, we try to make sure that we are honoring the spirit of the original recording while making sure we can play it live and update it for an audience that might be watching it in 2022,
Yeah, but I mean, I don't even mean that. I mean, there's like a show.
Oh, yes.
Like you are not, you are not going up there in flip-flops and shorts and singing,
that is true.
In a corner somewhere. This is a whole yacht rock spectacular.
It is visual as well as auditory. Cause we all dress up. Everybody's got an outfit that they wear. From the keyboards, I'm the captain. Yeah. And now that doesn't mean I'm the leader of the band. just means I'm steering the ship. The leader of the band is the first mate.
Yeah.
Who is, it's Eric Lovell. It's the guy that put us all together, but he plays the first mate, Cam Love. And he really does stick his bottom jaw out so he can get that nut.
Mr. Howell.
Hello, beautiful people. The common misconception is that that one of us is Thurston Howell.
Right.
No. The flamingo is Thurston Howell. There's a flamingo in all of our iconography. It's in our logo. It's on stage with us. Multiple flamingos on stage and on social media. Yeah. It's in our logos and everything. We say he's Thurston Howell. That's Thurston. So Thurston is the mascot. So we're trying to brand him as
who is Thurston Howell geared towards? It's obviously not, I'm not going to go to one of the breweries that has live music and see Thurston Howell. Although you might, but is it more geared towards corporate events and private events and things like that?
Technically yes, but we also like playing ticketed events.
Okay.
Places like Amos's here in Charlotte. Yeah. Or we just did the Charleston Poorhouse, last week. We like doing those because if you want to see something like that, we want to provide an experience where you didn't just go to a thing and, oh, look, there's a yacht rock band. We wanted to make sure this was something that you wanted to come and see, that you wanted to pay a ticket to see a yacht rock band. You were coming to see them. And when you can provide an experience that people actually want to come and see, they will drink it up hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
And so you can throw, as long as you're good, you can throw just about whatever you want at them and they'll be about it.
Right.
There's never a time during a Thurston Howell show where you can succinctly identify this is the go to the bathroom song. Right. Tim likes to joke because I got Tim to, cause we did, the show that we played at Amos's back several months ago, June, I think we played in June, almost sold out Amos's, which for the first time we'd ever been there to almost sell out one of the bigger venues in town. I was kind of impressed by that. I was like, wow.
That's great.
Really? Did we almost sell out Amos's? Is that a thing that really happened? But so
check.
Yeah, right. Check that off. Plus we got to send that call sheet to, to our manager and our agent, he gets to go, oh, well, this is stuff I can use to get you into other theaters, right? This is what they call actionable data.
That's great, man.
But so when we played there, I had Tim come and bring a remote rig and we actually streamed that show live on my Twitch channel.
Oh, sweet.
I talk about Thurston Howell with my Twitch audience all the time.
But they'd never seen it.
They'd never seen it because cause they live in San Diego or they live in Brussels, Belgium, or they live in Canada, So I was like, why don't we, let's set it up. Let's do a multicam thing and, set this up and shoot this and stream live. Yeah. Well, then, of course, a secondary option to that, or a secondary accident of that is that we're now recording the show as well. So now we got content. Guess who gets to put content on their YouTube page? Thurston Howell. And we're getting a board recording because he's set up right next to the board. So he took a USB straight from the board into our interface, right into the computer. So everything that happened in that room is what the live stream saw that night. And we got to immediately turn that into videos that now Thurston gets to use to pad their YouTube page.
Promo, yeah.
So just from that one thing, man, I got to go live on Brookstone Bards so people saw that. I had people in Amos's that were paying to see the show, so they got to see that. And now cats get to go to the Thurston Howell YouTube page and get to see video of the show that we did. It was so, I'm getting so excited about the integration of this platform with that piece of tech, with this band, with that thing, and just how it all fits together and how it all gets, I get to create so much from one event. It's just, it's truly fascinating. But we have to be on top of it. We have to know how OBS works. We have to know how the interface works. We have to know where to set up in the room to get the best sound, all these things. There is a learning curve to all of it.
Yes.
But once you've got it down and you've got cats that want to do it with you, you could just make content for days. There's just no shortage of stuff you can make.
And that's a wonderful thing. And it's also a dang difficult thing.
Oh yeah.
Because you don't have, you as the musician, you have to wear all these other hats.
Yep.
And that's what makes it tough today, I think, for independent artists is that you are not just you don't have a team behind you. You know, if you have other people that you're working with, like Thurston Howell doing that kind of stuff. But if you are just starting to do all this yourself, man, just to come up with this and do it all yourself is a lot.
Yeah,
you know, and you're just going to focus. I just wanted to focus on music. No, I've got to put on my recording engineer hat. Now I'm going to put on my videographer hat. Now I'm going to put on my performing, you know what I mean? All these things.
But the good thing about that stuff is that if you're into creation to begin with, all that stuff becomes kind of fun.
Yeah,
some of it can get a little tedious. Yeah. I mean, you know, we've been sitting here doing this podcast and I've been watching your computer monitor behind you.
Yeah.
And then when I look at that monitor, all I go is, damn, he's going to have to cut that. Oh man, he's going to have to cut that out. Oh, I bet he makes that section shorter. I'm just staring at the waveform on your computer screen and I'm thinking of it in terms of cuts and edits and fade ins and fade outs.
And the truth is, no, I'm probably going to keep it all because I used to edit a lot and I've started to become to really like the last several podcasts I've really become addicted to this long format. Mm-hmm. And I will, you know, do slight editing, you know, cause I slop up words and I will stutter a bit and I'll try to clean that up for people.
We don't want anybody out there thinking we're stupid.
But the truth is that, you know, when I get some people on who are actually, I shouldn't say that sounds awful. I get people on that I can have a good rolling conversation with. It really helps. And that keeps the form longer. And then sometimes I'll get people on and the conversation is a little, more difficult, you know, navigating the conversation and how we're going to
it's more stilted. Your question and answer and
yes,
they give the answer and now you're done. Yeah.
And that's not bad to anybody, but, and then there's that portion of me when I first started the podcast, I was a little more rigid. Like, no, I only want it to be X amount of time long because the listener is going to get bored. And when I listen back, let's just say to last month's podcast with Todd Johnson, that was an extremely long podcast and probably the longest podcast I've put out to date.
I think it was your longest podcast. Yeah. I haven't seen any other thing that you've done that has been that long.
Yeah. And I just felt that the conversation was so interesting to me that I wanted to keep it. And now I'm
awesome.
like,
I was into it, man. I listened to it when I was driving yesterday. Listened to the whole thing. I was like, this is awesome.
And I'm listening to this when I'm looking back and I'm like, oh crap, we're at an hour and 40 minutes and I still have to go in and add other stuff. This is probably going to be over 2 hours.
Yeah.
But I don't care because I've really enjoyed the conversation. And to be quite honest, to go in and edit a 2-hour conversation will take me, you know, another 3 or 4 hours and I don't want to put in that much time.
Right.
You know, so this might just go out exactly the way it is with some, you know, putting in music and putting in my intro and all that kind of stuff. So
that's right. Suck it, Todd. I beat your record.
So, all right. So we're going to change gears on you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to take too long, but I do want to talk to you because you're a geek and I'm a geek and we've had some brief discussions online about this Star Wars stuff with Disney.
Oh, we're nerding out here at the end. Oh,
so I'm going to take it this way.
Okay.
All right. So we've discussed, we'll just talk one particular series so we can just see.
Oh, because you're dropping the gauntlet right now. Okay. All right.
Because given our conversation online, we didn't get to go in depth and we, you know, it's not like I have had your number to be like, all right, we're going to, you know, and
we're hashing this out right now.
Yeah. So we have a difference of opinion regarding Kenobi.
Yes, we do.
All right. And if you're just listening and you are not a geek like we are, it's a Star Wars show on Netflix. Disney Plus.
Disney Plus. Yeah. Don't send them to Netflix. That's a totally different show.
So
they'll end up on Ozark.
You enjoyed it.
Yeah, I love it.
I, on the other hand, did not like it. I thought it was horrible.
All right.
So
you tell the people why you didn't like it, and then I'll spend the rest of the podcast telling you why you're wrong.
And I will then go back and edit you out, everything you said, and I'll find the part where
I thought you said you were editing this.
Where you say, I agree. And then I will just edit the podcast and cut it there.
Ouch. Ouch.
All right. So
you heard it here first, people.
Here's my thing. One, the story was just horrible. The writing for it was just awful. I thought it could have went 10 different ways and it did. That's first. Mm-hmm. 2, it was extremely cheap looking to me. Like the budget they put for this, which should have been a lot more. Like they have another series coming out called Andor, which I am extremely excited about.
Yeah.
I'm extremely excited about because visually it looks stunning and they put their time in.
That's this week. That's Wednesday.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm psyched about it. The story was awful. It looked cheap. And on top of it, the tone, I almost felt like it wasn't made for me. And in my mind, as an adult, so I grew up with Star Wars, absolutely love it, adored it. But as an adult now, I loved Rogue One. It had a much more serious tone. So me as a kid grew up, loved Star Wars in this vein. But now I'm an adult, I feel like Star Wars should have grown with me. And I don't feel like this did. And there were certain things about it that I didn't care for. So let's just say, we'll get this out of the way. One of the main characters, Reva, the Inquisitor.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Whole online thing with that, the story just went a different way. The Inquisitors, maybe they should have they could have taken a different approach and made a whole story just about the Inquisitors and then the way this character was developed. But to throw her into the Kenobi series and all of a sudden she's outsmarting everybody and she knows better than all these it just didn't do it for me. And I think it came off very cheap. They had characters put in that you were supposed to care about, but you didn't care about. Leia was this overbearing child who knew so much. She was kind of funny in some parts, but in other parts it was like, oh, she knows how to do this. Oh, she knows how to do this, with no backstory that she knew all this stuff. When she's a princess and her job shouldn't have been to know any of this stuff, how to fix things and do that. And that's where I'm at. There's a lot of it just didn't come off.
Well, you gotta remember whose kid she is.
Yes, but that is, somebody had to teach you how to do it. You don't just come off and be able to do it. If you want to remember whose kid she is, well, that guy also worked for somebody else who probably, picked that up from the original Phantom Menace. He worked in that shop to do those kind of things. It wasn't, he was just a mechanical genius out of the blue, I think.
Right. Well, they kind of hint in Phantom Menace especially, they kind of hint that the Force helps Anakin figure things out. Right. He wouldn't have kept me around so long if I wasn't so good at building things.
Right.
You're that good at 9 years old.
He has that natural ability.
He has natural,
right.
People with the Force we've already established in the universe, in canon, that people with the Force just have a natural affinity to do cool stuff. A lot of time, like Anakin can see things before they happen.
Right.
It's a Jedi trait. They said, it's another thing they spelled out in the Phantom Menace. I loved Obi-Wan. I loved the entire show.
But why?
That doesn't mean that Obi-Wan didn't have, some blemishes. That doesn't have some blemishes.
I'd say a pretty big blemish.
It has a couple. But one of the things that you touched on, and I want to hit this. One of the things that you said was you don't feel like Star Wars has grown with you.
Yeah.
And fair. It to a certain degree has not. But Star Wars isn't just for you or even me. They want, Star Wars is for, and always has been, for kids. It's always been for kids. Look what they did. Star Wars, man, they sold an empty box at Christmas time in 1978.
Yes.
Star Wars is for kids, man. They want you to buy the toys. They want you to, but now that doesn't mean that Star Wars can't have more adult themes or present as a more sophisticated drama. But at the end of the day, it's got space wizards and laser swords. It appeals. Star Wars is supposed to appeal to your sense of wonder and your sense of excitement and your suspension of disbelief. None of that is an excuse for lazy writing. I just want to point that out.
Yeah.
None of that is an excuse for lazy writing. However, it does lend a degree of softness to how we should take some of that versus how we should view something like Lord of the Rings, which is definitely not for children.
Right.
Or, Harry Potter, which starts out as being for children and then we grow up with him and now it's serious as a heart attack at the end, right? Star Wars is supposed to be, and I think is, universal. It's from the oldest dude to the youngest babe can find something they like in Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And I think that with Obi-Wan, you have, I call it a bridge show, because you have this bridge between the end of the prequel era and the beginning of the OG era, right? Mm-hmm. Because it takes place 10 years after Order 66 and, 10 years prior to A New Hope. And definitely before Rogue One as well. So you have this middle ground. Yes. Where it's at. So tonally, it's going to carry some of the way Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith looked versus the stark way A New Hope looked. I love Ewan McGregor. I adore him. I love Joel Edgerton as Owen. I thought he was
probably one of the shining folks in that.
Oh, I loved how awesome Aunt Beru was, like secret commando, like right on,
well, that was a little over the top. All of a sudden,
she goes and finds the rifle in the wall, like, yeah, all right, I'm cool with it.
I think that's part of just sloppy writing, but that's me.
No, I think that was lending an extra thing to her character. We already know who Aunt Beru is. We've seen her in several iterations by that point. Though one of the weakest parts was Reva. And I think, and it wasn't, there's many people online that will talk about, we were taking off boxes with her or whatever. Reva suffered from lazy writing. I think her direction was just be real intense right here. And just be real intense right here. And just be real intense right here. And they didn't give her a really good arc till the end of the show. That the final 2 episodes, Reva got this really compelling arc, and you find out who she actually is from the beginning of the show and why she's mad at Kenobi, why she doesn't like him, why she ultimately wants to kill Darth Vader instead of working with him. Spoilers. Sorry. We're going to get into spoiler territory.
But again, lazy writing, because
you could see that you could have been
figured that out from the beginning of the show.
Actually, I'm pretty good about the stuff like that. I didn't even think about it.
Oh my God. I watched it and I was like,
to me.
Oh, that's going to be Reva who I saw in the beginning. Okay. So that little girl at the beginning is this person. Right. Oh, she's mad at Kenobi because he wasn't there to help. Yeah.
He wasn't there to save her.
And that's so like, just simplistic. Maybe there could have been some other thing, like Kenobi was there at some point and he didn't save, like, you should have been there to save him. Well, I was actually off planet at that time trying to save the rest of the universe.
Right.
You can't worry about I
was fighting the general of the army.
Yeah. Yeah. And not to mention, let's just take one of the scenes that I just will start with stupid. It made no sense whatsoever. So
hiding her in the coat.
No, oh my God. No, besides, no, not Reva in the coat. So Reva takes a whole little platoon of stormtroopers to go storm this little base that's got a big steel wall in there. Oh, and they're shooting this large cannon at it. And she's having a conversation with Kenobi through this massive steel door, which you're thinking, okay, maybe they're using the Force. But in reality, they're just having a conversation back and forth. And they're shooting at this thing. They can't get through this door. And she just takes her lightsaber and sticks it in. And you're like, why'd you bring all these stormtroopers with you? What was that about? You could have just did that from the beginning.
Oh, well, the stormtroopers were to make sure that none of those other people got sassy.
Yeah. I mean,
there were other people down there.
I know, but I mean, why are you taking this big laser to shoot down the door if you can just do it with your lightsaber in 2 minutes? I'm just saying, I get it, but
I think it's in an effort to still keep the Jedi from solving every problem. Because that is one of the problems when you create super beings in your thing. Yeah. It's hard to make super beings face any stakes.
Yeah.
It's hard to raise the stakes for Superman when he's invulnerable and can fly and can shoot lasers out of his eyes. Like, how are you going to make a villain that's worth fighting him? No, you have to create kryptonite to make him weak. Now there's stakes. That's what you have to do to characters like Jedi, But we got a whole trilogy about why you don't have to do that. Cause they've got the Force and they've got laser swords, but they can still be shot.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
They can still be shot. They can still lose a duel. They can still fall out a window. Mm-hmm. They can still blow up in a spaceship. Like, they're not super. They're enhanced.
Yes.
You know?
No, that's a good way to put it.
So we've got to, you got to put roadblocks in their way to stop them from just being all powerful.
Well, I guess one of my questions to you would be this, because this is my judge, and we talked about another film before we even started recording. I've gone back and I've watched Star Wars multiple times.
Oh yeah. I rewatch it all about once a year.
Star Wars, the original trilogy, and I've even gone back and I've watched the prequels. I have not gone back and rewatched the last 3 films that they did.
Yep.
So what I judge a film by, or a television show for that matter, is will I go back and watch it multiple times? Because I think today we love to throw around the word great as if it's such an easy word. Oh, just great.
That's great.
It's not great. You know, it's okay.
It's
so
okay.
I will honestly say I will probably never go back and watch Kenobi. I will not.
I've already watched it twice.
and there's the difference. You enjoyed it so much that you would go back multiple times and watch it. I found it so unmemorable that there was nothing that I needed to go back and watch.
Man, that last episode didn't do anything for you.
Nothing.
I'm sorry, Anakin, for all of it. Anakin is gone. Oh man.
No. Because that was already done for me in the Clone Wars, where he was fighting, oh my gosh, now I can't remember her name. Ahsoka, thank you. He was fighting Ahsoka Tano. And that whole thing of, cutting off part of the mask, that was already done, and I think even done better in the cartoon series. So, and I think
you're talking about in Rebels, right? When Ahsoka had the fight with him and then Ezra Bridger was doing the timey-wimey, the Force backdoors. Yeah.
Yes. And that was
great series.
Brilliant.
Great series, by the way.
And it just got better as it went on. And that, I felt the stakes were so much higher in the cartoon. Now I get the live action and I don't feel that the stakes are that high. I just didn't. It didn't make me feel anything. And you had X amount of episodes to build this up to this final thing, and you didn't do it. It was like, we're going to throw rocks around and I'm going to yell at you, and all of a sudden I'm on this. And I didn't feel like it had that. And maybe the only way to say it is just sloppy story writing. They had all these opportunities to do that. And that's just me. You enjoyed it. Obviously you went back and watched it several times.
I love it. But I'm also the guy that will say that Rogue One is one of my top 3 Star Wars movies.
Loved it.
Rogue One is so dope.
Yes.
But but Rogue One is, that is a very different, that is a departure from the way Star Wars movies are made. Like if you go back and look at the way Star Wars is presented in that Flash Gordon style serial kind of that George Lucas way.
Yeah.
And Rogue One ain't presented like that.
No.
Rogue One is a war film.
That's why I liked it. It was gritty. It was dirty. It was
Rogue One is like Star Wars, the Deer Hunter.
Yes.
And I'm way into that. Way into that. But it does, if you look at it tonally, it doesn't really fit with the rest of those movies. I mean, even like Solo. I loved Solo.
I liked it. I love
Solo. I don't know why everybody yells at it, man. Yeah. I love Solo.
I mean, there's some things that are cheesy about it.
Oh, there's a ton of things that are cheesy about it. But Star Wars is cheesy. It also has moments of pathos, for sure. You can't have a tragic character like Anakin Skywalker and not take that seriously. Yeah. But Star Wars is also cheeseball, man. Star Wars also gave us, Jar Jar Binks. Star Wars gave us Max Rebo behind the keys, Star Wars gave us Salacious Crumb.
But those are little things. When you give too much of it, like, we go back and add stuff to just cheese it up, for example, like redoing.
You hated the special editions, didn't you?
Oh my gosh. Han Solo walking over Jabba the Hutt's tail just drove me bonkers. Oh, it's like, what is that?
I didn't like it the first time because the effect looked crappy. I like it now because they fixed it. Now it looks like it's supposed to.
It's just cheesy. They're the most feared gangster in the galaxy, and you do that to him. You're letting some henchman, some guy's not even on his level, of evil do that to you, and you just kind of sucking it up.
Remember, it wasn't that, it wasn't that Jabba was, I mean, he obviously gangster, he was, but that, like, Han Solo had been working for Jabba, like, canonically, working for Jabba a lot before that happened.
True.
They had a good working relationship. He calls him Han, my boy. Like, they're buddies. It's not until he gets frozen and hoisted up as a trophy, then everybody realizes how serious Jabba the Hutt is.
But that's where I'll say this. That wasn't in the original film.
That's true.
Which by the time you get to Return of the Jedi,
now
Jabba's character has more weight to him.
That's true.
So now when you put the scene back in the original, who originally was not actually Jabba the Hutt, it was
CGI.
A guy. It was an actual person, and that scene had a little more weight to
like
it.
A fat dude in a fur coat.
Yeah, he had a little more, no pun intended, had a little more weight to him, to the character in that scene. Yeah. But when you have Han Solo walk around his back and step on his tail, now you take all of it and it becomes more comical. And then when you get to Return of the Jedi, it's not as, you're like, why? Well, this is not the character I, feared, that's been talked about for
just because you should, or just because you could doesn't mean you should.
Exactly.
Now, but see, there were some, like, I was okay with the Jabba the Hutt. The stuff in Mos Eisley, I was very down with the showing up and Mos Eisley's got a little more life to it, right? I'm very down with that. Everything they did to the third act, the X-Wing sequence, about it. The best one was Empire Strikes Back. I mean, that's my favorite movie anyway, but in terms of special edition stuff, that was the one that had the least intrusive improvements.
Right.
You got a little bit extra with the Wampa, but that's cool. Now you can see him and now he's scary. He's eating the thing and he's got gore in his face, right? Yeah. That's dope. All the stuff they improved in Cloud City. Now Cloud City looks like more of an open air, place and more scenery and it's just cooler looking, They didn't really do much to the movie beyond that. They cleaned up some cells and just made things a little prettier, but yeah, Empire had the least intrusive enhancements. Yeah. And then you have Jedi where they put a giant music video in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, which was dumb. We're just gonna say that.
I'm okay with it. I like the song. I thought the song's kind of dope. When the Yuzum comes up and he's got spit in his mouth and everything. I'm like, all right.
It wouldn't bother me if they just kept the original and put that out, and then you could choose whether you want these enhanced versions.
But now you absolutely can't watch and now Disney owns them and they're not putting them out. Yeah. So,
but you can buy DVDs that take out all the special effects.
That's true.
So
you can.
Those are nice to watch. I will check those out.
I'm actually okay with it all now because now I'm seeing Star Wars through my kids' eyes.
Right.
It's always going to exist for me. And I'm always down with, I'm just excited that we live in a time where I can have Star Wars TV shows. That I don't care that they're not exactly how I want or they might have this character that's got a lackluster or whatever. I'm glad I live in a time where I get to watch a Star Wars show. I get to watch a side story with Obi-Wan. I get to watch the Andor show, a character that I really didn't care about in Rogue One. Right. That show looks dope. That show looks awesome, and I'm going to get an Ahsoka show, and that's all going to have the cast of Rebels in it, and I'm very down with that. I'm about it.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with Andor. I've watched a film thread. I don't know if you watch those guys, Chris Gore and Alan Ning. And
I love Chris Gore. I love Chris Gore's critique, man. He's got a great head about film.
They just they did a reactionary review, and they basically said, it's pretty spectacular. Yeah. They said, the story's a little interesting because you should watch, they'll drop 3 episodes, I think, of it, and you should probably just watch them back to back.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to one episode because the story is more of an arc for those 3 episodes.
That's why they're putting out the 3. That means the 4th episode's got some sort of surprise for you.
And this is why I'm excited about it because I think they said this is not really a kid's one.
Mm-hmm.
And
my kids are still going to watch it.
But I'm sure they will. But here's what my point, and I just thought about it while you were talking about it. when Star Wars came out originally, you say it was made for kids. I'm not sure if it was totally made for kids, whereas it was made for the inner child. Because you got to remember, you say things like Flash Gordon serials and things like that. The people who saw that in 77, a lot of the adults who enjoyed it grew up in that younger generation. And
I'm sorry,
and
yes.
We're treated
inner
as
child.
serials.
That is a much better way to say it.
And they're the ones who enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because it had all these wonderful things to it. And despite whatever happened, it still had a semi-serious tone. Yeah, there was comedy in the original and all this, but it still had this wonderful serious tone that I don't think something like Kenobi had, to bring it back to what we were just talking. That's the only thing I say, and when I see something like Andor or Rogue One, that excites my inner child because it does have the laser guns and all this kind of stuff and the spaceships, but it's got a more serious tone, almost like, I want to say, and I haven't seen it, of course, a Game of Thronesian kind of tone, which for the adult in me is like, oh, this is so super cool.
Right.
So
I am a huge Game of Thrones fan too. I'm going to be honest.
You're coming on again. We'll have to do the Queen City Music, podcast
the Queen City Nerd podcast.
Yeah, there we go.
You need to start calling it. Yeah. Split this one in half and part 2, the Star Wars talk.
Pete's coming back and we're talking Game of Thrones for the next episode.
It's in, bro. I'm down. Calm.
So Pete, as we wrap things up, man, fill me in, give us some links. How can we get in touch with you if we want to find out about what you do?
Well, the best way is to find the link tree again that I talked about. I think I can't even
on Instagram.
Yeah, you can actually find it on any of my socials. If you go to the bio, there's a link tree. But yeah,
okay.
I'm basically at Brookstone Bards just about everywhere.
Okay.
You can at Brookstone Bards on Facebook, Instagram. There is a Brookstone Bards TikTok that has 2 things on it. There is a, Brookstone Bards on YouTube, which is where I host all of my content. If you want to check out the, Art and Pete stuff, all of our original music is on Spotify, Apple Music, any place that you get, streaming stuff. You have to put Art ampersand Pete, like the actual symbol. Or you can go to my link tree and find the Art and Pete tab and click that. Go to our website, artandpete.com. You can find all the music there. We are very, very close to putting out, a brand new album called Songworks, which is a collection of songs that were actually written on my Twitch show, where Art's actually on. He's on the show. We say it's in the ether, but he's actually on audio through an app called Discord, which is a server-based chat room, that connects with Twitch. So my audience can actually hear him talking.
Sweet.
And he and I are on the show together taking suggestions from chat about where the song should go. And the idea is we go from concept to product in 3 to 4 hours.
Wow.
And so every song on this new record, what's called Art and Pete Presents Songworks Volume 1.
Yeah.
And, each one of the songs on there was actually written by me, Art, and chat on stream live as it happened.
Wow.
And so we've got 10 of those songs, and they range from they range from ballad to punk to prog to 80s rock to schoolhouse rock style even. Yeah. So they're kind of all over the place. And I'm really, really excited to put this out. We're very, very close. I have to go in and finish up some of the vocals. All the instrumentation is done. It was all done over the course of a week by people that were in Abacab and people that were in Thurston Howell. So it was kind of a meeting of both of my bands to make the band that ultimately recorded the Songworks record. But yeah, we're really excited about it. And, it's kind of what we're pushing people at right now is the Songworks record. And, hopefully it will definitely be out before the end of the year.
Okay.
But, we're going to, as opposed to the Childish Things album, which Art and I are dropping a single at a time.
Yeah.
Songworks will be dropped all at once. So it'll be up all at once on Spotify, and then we're just going to be, on Apple Music and all the other things, and then we're just going to be sharing it everywhere.
Okay.
Push it for the rest of the year.
That sounds great, man. I look forward to hearing it when it comes out. Let me know.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, Pete, thanks for coming on, man. And, thanks for helping break the, record of the longest Queen City Music podcast.
Yeah. Longest one. Come for me.
And you all go check out Brookstone Bards on Twitch. I'll get you and, send some Pete some song requests.
Yeah. Hit me up.
All right. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to episode 61 of the Queen City Music Podcast, and I hope you'll go back and check out past episodes. You can find the QCMP on all your favorite streaming platforms. As always, if you have an idea for an episode, would like to be a guest on the QCMP, reach out to me at qcmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Also, check out our local partners, Records on the Wall at rexonthewall.com, Reporting from 20XX at reportingfrom20xx.wordpress.com, Queen City Live at instagram.com/Queen City Live Music, and Charlotte New Music at charlottenewmusic.org. Until next month, be well and stay safe.